I'm nothing if not prompt. It's 4 o'clock. Let's stand for the pledge and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Heavenly Father, as stewards of your magnificent creation, we acknowledge our responsibility to care for our county's environment. Grant us the wisdom to make sustainable choices that will preserve the beauty of our natural surroundings for future generations. May we be good custodians of the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we inhabit. Bless our efforts to create a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable county, and may we always walk in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Amen. First thing on our agenda is approval of the June minutes. Commissioners, do you have an opportunity to review? If so, I'd entertain a motion to accept.
Move that we accept.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Does anyone on the commission have any changes or additions that they'd like to make to the agenda? Mr. Schoen?
Yes, good evening. You should all have a letter from the applicant for item number 3. They're requesting to be removed from the meeting agenda and from the application process entirely. So I didn't know if you want to take that now or wait until after the legislative items.
We'll take it as we get to it on through the agenda.
Very good.
So, thank you.
If you're ready.
I just want to know if there are any announcements from the commission or any questions from the commission.
I have a question, Madam Chair. Are we going to discuss the proposed or potential changes as a result of SB 180?
Yeah, we
are going to talk
absolutely
about
can.
that tonight.
We can if the committee would like. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think my concern would be trying to figure out what the rules of the game are, as we have to evaluate projects, and now there's a lot of uncertainty about what the rules are. So I'd just like to kind of discuss that with you. And I know it's early in the process, and I know you haven't finished reviewing it, but I'd kind of like to see where we're at.
Commissioner Turker, Brooke Davis on behalf of the Planning Department. At this point, it's not been listed on the agenda as providing a notice of a point of discussion. So I would expect that your council would probably advise you that going into a full discussion tonight is probably not going to be a thing that's going to be a useful point. But we'll definitely discuss it in terms of whatever comes up on a project by project basis. And then if we want to have it as a discussion item in the future, we can do that.
Well, I understand we're not going to be voting on it. We're not anywhere near that. I understand that it's early in the process. I'd just like to get an indication of where we're going and make a suggestion for the planning department that would help us a lot, I think.
If I could, I'll just say that from the county attorney, from Mr. Atkinson, we have a staff meeting scheduled for next week to discuss some of the fallout from Senate Bill 180 as well as 784, to discuss how we will proceed with some of the current and ongoing amendments that staff's been working on, including DPZ items, et cetera. As Ms. Davis said, we can discuss this as part of any item, but in terms of giving you a full breadth of what this could mean, we're not there.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think what I would like to suggest is it'd be really good if we had a set of documents representing the comp plan and the land development code with all the changes included in it, so it's a clean draft of the regulations as of this point in time. So in other words, strip out the things that are planned to be appealed and put in things that used to be there, like for example in the transportation system is completely changing. So as I see it, what I'd like to see is a document that just deletes all the mobility plan stuff and includes all the old proportionate fair share stuff. And that document would be useful to us because then we can look at it and say, okay, these are the rules. Because otherwise, it's really difficult, I think, for us to try to decipher what the rules are.
And Mr. Tricker,
it's hard for you, so I know it's going to be hard for us.
Yes, sir.
I anticipate Mr. Atkinson is going to be bringing back, I think some of the addresses me your questions at the next BCC meeting on the 22nd. So we'll make sure planning can make those available to you what the change are. But it is something that we are still evaluating. This is a relatively seismic change that's taken place in land use planning in the state. So we're still evaluating the full impact it has on our ordinances that have been passed since August of last year, and the ones that we've been planning to amend in the last few months, just how we're going to proceed on that. So it's been a very significant thing that's taken place. We're still evaluating the full impact of it.
So do you think we'll have something by the next planning commission meeting that would give us some?
Mr. Atkinson was hoping, and what he stated on Tuesday, to have something back on the 22nd for the board to review and potentially make a decision on. So I'm hoping, when's the next meeting in August?
What is it, the 14th?
It should be back by then, or
we have a special meeting next week, right?
We
Is
do.
that within the scope of what's in flux?
So, no, that is specifically designed for the DPZ team to present initially some of the larger concepts that are currently being proposed that may in fact not be in the long run. But in discussions with them and their legal team, it was thought that we should continue to proceed, knowing that there are some potential changes in some of the things that could come about, and providing the special hearing or continuing to provide that as a means to look through some of those concepts and see what may or may not actually work, considering the 180 signing. So that I'm sure will be part of the conversation.
Okay, so I mean, I just saw a blurb online today, so trying to wrap my head around what we're actually talking about, right? So you're saying things about things in ordinance. I assume that is not talking about zoning changes per ordinance, but just about the land development code and the other things themselves?
Just loosely, just a loose understanding of 180, we would not be able to rezone as a county in a way that would remove entitlements. I'm assuming that's a safe statement to make based on my understanding of the bill, is we would not be able to make anything more burdensome. So if we're moving entitlements from a property, that would be creating a burden in many ways. So when it comes to changes as at the DPZ EAR level, that is an instrument that we have to carry forward regardless. It has to be to the state by March. So whether it's in full form of what they're proposing now or a very trimmed down version that would meet any consideration of 180, it's got to move forward regardless. So
And that's one of the tensions we're trying to figure out. They have certain requirements on changes the processes we must go through, and how are they impacted by what's been passed there. Those are two things. There was not really clarification provided on that particular issue. So that's one of the things we're trying to figure out, and how does it impact these other statutory requirements we have.
Okay, could I ask one more general question? I looked at the changes in the state legislation, and it looks like it relates mostly to construction and reconstruction and things like that. So I would assume that things that aren't related to development, like for example, the issue of occupancy limits on short-term rentals, would not be impacted.
I don't think that's how it's being interpreted currently. While it's certainly proposed in a framework of hurricane preparedness and, post-disaster construction,
Right.
that is not the way it's written.
Hmm.
So our understanding from a layman's legal interpretation to the county attorney is we need to really push pause and really feel out what this means. So that's where we're at.
And I would hope that somebody in the state will step up and challenge this. This is really stupid.
Well, while I don't disagree with you, I think there will be a time and place for that.
Yeah, okay.
Right now
Well,
is not it.
It seems like it's appropriate for us to postpone next week's special meeting then.
I would argue the opposite. While there's certainly some potential changes to it, I think that would give the commission a good idea of what's actually being proposed, and maybe wrap your heads around some of those proposals, because ultimately many of them are something that's going to be discretionary for owners in the future. There's not a lot of mandatory things that are coming in that document. So
True, but I didn't want to have to wrap my little mind around them and then unwrap little parts of them, because for us normal people, that becomes very confusing.
well, this is just the first step in introducing it to you all. They'll be back again in August as well, if the time frame comes. But yeah, if we get to a place where you all aren't getting anything out of that meeting on Monday, then make it known, and we'll continue it another time.
It's not Monday, it's Wednesday.
Excuse me, Wednesday. Thank you.
Yeah, if it was Monday, I could be here. Wednesday, I can't.
Understood.
For a second, I was thinking, oh, goody. All right. Well, and I'm thinking that this whole thing being thrown at you and planning, considering you're short-staffed, and it's like a nightmare, I'm sure, that you're having to get through all this as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other comments about that? If not, we'll head to agenda item number 2.
Okay, I'll just briefly introduce it. It is legislative item number 2. It is Juan's Auto Repair Small Scale Future Land Use Map Amendment with rezoning. And this was reviewed by Ayanna Reed, and I'll ask her to present.
Good evening, everyone. Ayanna Reed with Planning and Development. So this is Juan's Auto Repair SSA with rezoning. This is a request to approve by ordinance. This is a future land use with rezoning application submitted by Interlight Engineering Corp. On behalf of Juan Ramos Carlos Alvarez, requesting to change the future land use from rural residential to commercial, excuse me, or a lesser category, and to change the zoning district from rural village to general commercial or a lesser district on 1.02 plus or minus acres. The property is in District 1, located on the east side of US Highway 331, south approximately 0.54 miles south of Ramsey Branch Road, and is identified by the parcel number in your staff report. May I enter the staff report into the record?
So entered.
Okay. So this project, let's see. So a couple of things I want to point out. Water and sewer will be available via the city of Freeport. Per staff comment from engineering and traffic impact, the proposed development will generate 119 new PM peak hour trips, It is subject to a mobility fee, well, as of this current staff report. Of course, we're all aware of what's happening in the county with mobility fees. But that doesn't always apply in terms of a future land use project. The amendment may have adverse impact on the operations of access roadways and intersections. There are no special considerations or previous actions on this project. And I also want to note that commercial uses in general commercial zoning districts must be connected to water, public water and sewer. The applicant does address that. And per comment from floodplain management, an updated environmental assessment will be required for the technical review stage when they come in for their development order application. But besides all of that, staff recommends moving the project forward to a reading for adoption by ordinance at the Board of County Commissioners because the proposed amendment is consistent with the comp plan and the land development code. So if you have any questions for me,
Any
leave it
questions for
open.
planning department? Seeing none? We can hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm David Smith with Interlight Engineering, and I'm representing Juan's Automotive Future Land Use Amendment and Rezoning. Here, property's 1.02 acres, currently vacant and wooded. So pointing at an aerial, this is the property. We're on the eastern side of US 331. This is Sweetwater, and like I said, it's 1 acre, and it's currently vacant and wooded. The current future land use is rural residential, and the current zoning classification is rural village. What we are proposing is to change the future land use to commercial and the proposed zoning to general commercial. So you can see here we are here. And what I want to point out are the current future land use and zoning trends that are in the area. You can see immediately south of us is industrial. This is commercial across US 331. This is also commercial down in this location. And this is also commercial up to the north. This area of rural village here, I do want to point out, is distinctive cycles. So there is a commercial use located in that rural village area. So we feel our request is consistent with the development trends, as well as we are located on the largest, or one of the largest, arterial roadways in Walton County. So single-family residential is not applicable along this major arterial highway, and we feel we are compatible with the development trends that have already been established by the future land use in the area, as well as the zoning classifications in the area, and the development in the area. Like I said, that distinctive cycles is in the rural village classification. So I want to point out, I'm not here representing a developer. I'm representing a family, and it's a family business that they're wanting to do. It's an automotive facility and a repair facility. So the family has purchased the property, and that's their dream, is to have their own repair facility. So, and I know I'm not here to talk about buildings because this is future land use and rezoning, but I'm just going to show you a snapshot of what their vision is for their facility. You can see they've hired an architect, and that's what their dream and their goal is, to have their own automotive repair facility. And it's you can see really architecturally pleasing from US 331. So I won't talk any more development until we get to the development order stage. The traffic that was presented when we do a future land use amendment and rezoning, that's based on a theoretical maximum. So obviously our traffic will be substantially less based on this automotive facility. We have to look at the maximum use that can occur under what we're requesting. So that traffic impact will be substantially less when we do go through the development order process. And when, I know you all are trying to figure this out too, when I figure out will we be doing a mobility fee or proportionate fair share, or what that process will be. So we'll figure that out together. So that's just a general overview, and we're happy to be here, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
I'm going first. I always go last. I'm going first this time. I just was wondering if there's any wetland impact, because the map shows no wetlands, but the staff report states wetlands are present.
There's a small wetland in the center of the property, and it runs right through the center. It's a ditch, which we are going to have to cross because it bisects the property. So we will have to cross. It's a smaller ditch area, and that's the only environmentally sensitive area on the property.
And it's going to be left intact just with the crossing, or is it going to be filled?
Well, part of it will probably be, Phil, we're still figuring the planning out. Our goal is to minimize impacts as well.
Okay.
But we will have to cross and impact to some degree to get to the other side of the property. It just literally makes that eastern side, we can't even get to it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now you can go.
Thank you. I got an easy question for you, David. Regarding traffic, 331 is developing with lots of businesses, which is a good thing. But you got a lot of cars pulling out of driveways into traffic that's going 65 miles an hour plus. And at what point or how do we address that? Now, this isn't specific to this project, but just in general. And the other thing is that I noticed in the traffic study that 331 is already at capacity and over capacity. So in terms of long-range planning, this is not a good question for you, I know, but maybe you have some insights into how we deal with that, not just for this project.
But to limit the number of connections with access roads would help. And that's to my point, having single-family homes lined up along an arterial with individual driveways is very dangerous.
Right.
So to me, you want to isolate your driveway connections with access ways. And then as far as the traffic capacity of US 331, I know there are studies which at some point, if we continue with growth and, you know, we have tourists who do want to be here, which I feel very fortunate we live where people obviously want to be, and then there may be another expansion to US 331 that's warranted in the future.
Well, if we're at capacity or over capacity, shouldn't there be something happening right now?
Well, to me, that also includes trips from projects that have been realized on the road. I mean,
Right.
that's probably taken into consideration even zoning future land use, where if you go out and actually count the traffic, you may not have that. It's looking at the backlog
Right.
as well in the concurrency system.
I understand that. Okay, thank you.
But thank you.
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
What size is the building being proposed?
I don't have a final size yet, but I'm more than happy to.
Approximate. I mean,
Yes, sir. May I walk closer to you? May I walk up closer to you?
Yeah.
I always ask before I just do
as
it.
long as you're not carrying a weapon.
This is the entire property. You can see that's the building side.
Okay.
I don't have that size, but you can see it's not.
Yeah. Got
Well, it looks like the building crosses the wetland.
This is a concept plan. We are looking, like I said, to minimize our impact here. And we're looking at obviously orientation. This was the first step. So
Okay.
when we come in, obviously our goal is to minimize impacts as well. But that's their building size. We've looked at fitting it over here.
Can you go back to the mic so
sorry.
they,
Sorry.
well, the only way it'll pick up is for you to be by the microphone.
I get on a roll and I talk, but
And I appreciate
obviously
it.
that's not a final site plan. So that's just something that we came up with concept.
Right, but given that there's wetland. Given there's a wetland bisecting this somewhat long property, I'm surprised that this is even your desirable site. I mean, there's already a Juan's Auto Repair, right? I mean, it popped up on my map when I tried to look at it. So is this going to move the family business or what?
That's my understanding, is this would be their new location with their business. I know the owner is here as well.
Okay.
If you have questions for them as well, but this would be their new building that they would build for their
And
automotive facility.
rural village doesn't allow you to have this type of,
No, sir. And I can't speak for distinctive cycles, so I just know it's there, and in my presentation, the point is the trend's already there. It's an arterial, so I think we would fit in with the zoning classifications, future land use, and the actual development in the area too.
okay, well, it looks like we're just slowly rezoning this whole area to be commercial, whereas it had another zoning. I don't know when these others became general commercial, but it seems like we're just slowly eating away at the residential. Oh, I think I'm getting an answer now.
I just wanted to briefly just touch on, I want to say it was 2018 timeframe. The county adopted what is the 331 Economic Development Corridor on that 331
Okay.
south portion that speaks to the commercialization of the corridor itself. And this sort of development, this trend is in line with some of the visioning in that document itself. I just wanted to just put that out
Okay,
there.
so how does this fit into the concept that urban planners love of preventing urban sprawl? Because I could conceive this as being creating urban sprawl rather than preventing it. So,
How do you mean?
well, one of the quotes from the goals of the county's plans is to prevent urban sprawl, and it seems like if you're we're taking a rural village area and turning it in commercial.
Well, so I mean, just the idea of having rural village itself, right? That low density zoning itself can create urban sprawl in some respects, right? So while this isn't creating density, it certainly is adding trips to a roadway, but it is not adding, say, 20 or more plus dwelling units out where there is utility services, those sort of things. So,
Okay. However, if I read this correctly, this new zoning would allow 17 living units per acre.
Right. That's certainly some idea that you should consider here, but multifamily.
As a conditional use, right? It's a conditional.
No.
Because it's multifamily.
You could do it by right with the vertical mix. It wouldn't require a conditional use.
Does it require a percent of affordable
No.
housing? Okay.
No.
Okay.
So, and we can talk more about that if you want. I don't think you do, because that's not the idea, I don't believe. But so when you create a pocket where there are utility services available of density, that is the opposite of urban sprawl, right? So
I'm just questioning because I actually like urban sprawl, but I know that urban planners love these kinds of phrases.
Right.
So, okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, we're going to ask the public, and then we'll give you an opportunity to respond if there are any concerns from the public.
Thank you all.
Diana, yes.
I did forget to add earlier that there was one public comment letter received in opposition to the project that is in your packet, hopefully. And I do want to note Exhibit F and E that highlight an excerpt from the comprehensive plan regarding the policy intent behind the proposed change versus the current future land use of the parcel. So that might give some insight as to how that aligns with what Stephen was mentioning regarding the commercialization of the 331 corridor. And also I would like to add to the record that in terms of what we received from the applicant regarding the prospective square footage of the building, that's 3,900 square feet.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Diana?
I don't see the letter in here that you're talking about. Can you just tell us roughly?
The letter from the applicant.
The opposition letter.
Yeah, so what was it about? What was the opposition?
Someone might have it in their packet.
I have
You have,
it right
okay,
here.
perfect,
Thank you.
perfect.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak about this small-scale amendment with rezoning? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium, state your name, and spell your last name.
My name is Sherry Paris, Paris. I'm the landowner on the south side of the project. We have a 5-acre parcel there, so we're pretty familiar with that property. It does have some environmentally sensitive, and what I'm concerned about is not so much about the commercial zoning, because the trend of 331 is commercial. But what I am concerned about is the impacts from an automotive type of business being there, with the possibility of oil, gas, runoff, and that wetlands that bisects the property also bisects our property, and it leads right into Mallet Bayou. So that is a concern and of this particular type of business. Commercial If it was something that didn't create an impact, really seems to be a better fit for that particular site. Also, it's only 100 feet wide. It's a narrow property. It's rectangular, 100 feet wide. By the time you get all your setbacks and your building on there, you're going to be very close to the residential property that's on the north side. Just something for you to consider as you make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
ma'am.
Yeah.
So you said you own the property just to the south directly,
Adjoining on the south side.
and the zoning of that,
We have an industrial commercial zoning, yes.
and what business what exists there now? What do you have?
It's vacant. It's vacant property.
Okay, but did you
We
change-
changed the zoning years ago. Yes, sir.
okay, and before that, it was also,
Rural Village.
Rural
The whole
Village.
area was Rural Village. Yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak about Juan's small-scale amendment with rezoning? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Do you have any more questions or comments you'd like to make, Mr. Smith?
I want to thank Ms. Paris for having a great conversation with me today. And,
Good.
we spoke, and, as we go through the development order process, we have to meet all the rules and regulations. Obviously, stormwater management, we have to contain our stormwater. We can't just freely flow into the wetland areas. And any type of containment facilities for, we are automotive, for any type of oil, we can't just freely drain into the wetland or environmentally sensitive areas. So we have to meet all those rules and regulations. And just wanted to just point that out. And again, thank her again for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anybody have any comments or concerns they'd like to address? All right, seeing none, I'd open to a motion.
Make a motion if you like, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay,
Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes 6-1. All right, council, the next portion is quasi judicial.
Sure. Anyone who is planning to give a testimony either on behalf of the applicant, as the general of the public, or the staff, please stand and raise your right hand. These are on the next three items. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda, on the quasi judicial agenda, item number 3 is the preserve at Grayton Beach Greenway, which we just received the letter asking for it to be removed, to be withdrawn.
That's correct.
So I would entertain a motion from the Planning Commission to withdraw.
Motion to accept the withdrawal.
Is that the same thing as a tabling?
Mr.
It's
Schoen?
actually a withdrawal. They pulled their application.
If they're asking for it to be withdrawn, it does say that they're looking to resubmit a PUD as
That's
opposed
correct.
to.
At another time, a motion would not need to include anything. That was just a courtesy to let the board know what the reasoning behind the withdrawal was.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
We do. Motion
Thank
to
you.
accept
Okay.
the withdrawal.
Sorry, I was talking over you. I apologize.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion about the withdrawal? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item.
Okay, item number 4 is the Echelon. This is a request to approve by final order. It is project number MAJ 25-000034. It was reviewed by Kelly Scholes. She was not able to make it tonight, so I'm presenting on her behalf. This is a major development application that was submitted by Jenkins Engineering Incorporated on behalf of H&S LLC. They're requesting to develop a 246-unit condominium with associated amenities and infrastructure as part of the approved DRI, the Seascape DRI, on 5.62 plus or minus acres. The project site has a future land use designation of mixed use and a zoning category of coastal center. The project area is within the Seascape DRI, which is in District 4 and identified by the parcel ID in your staff report. If I could please enter that report into the record.
So entered.
Thank you. Just to answer what I'm assuming will be some very, that's right, excuse me. So I also have additional public comment that were not part of the original submittal to you all. I can hand this around. It was 100 or more pages. This is part of the record online. I can certainly give it to you all to review. Based on what I understand, nothing in here is substantially different than what you've already seen in your packet. All the same concerns are certainly brought up.
But
if you would
there's
like
just more.
there's just more. Yes, ma'am. That's right. So I'm assuming that there are some primary questions relating to height. Primarily, I would assume, right? How can we let a 24-story building be developed in South Walton when the height is 50 feet? So just a little history here, and all of what I'm going to tell you is in your staff reporting as well. But during 2000, there was an ordinance that was adopted by the county that not only extended the life of the DRI, but provided that structure, that height, if you will, those 24 stories that are currently being proposed, along with some other changes. Additionally, there was an ordinance passed in 2017 that extended the life of the DRI even further out to September 25th of 2031. So that's the two things I really wanted to impress upon you is that the propose is not only in line with an existing and active DRI, but the height was also previously approved for this particular structure. So I could attempt to answer any other questions. If not, I will turn it over.
Any questions from the?
What was the date of that again?
I'm sorry, which part?
What, that it was approved for the height?
The ordinance was approved on August 8th of 2000.
And there's no sunset on these things? That's
Well,
25 years ago.
So that was my second comment. So there's been a number of ordinances that went through and extended the life of the original DRI. The last one was passed in 2017 with the revised build out and expiration of September 25th of 2031.
Okay.
My comment, I'm just confirming that a development order for the DRI currently exists, right?
For the various phases within and developments within the DRI, yes.
Right. So I guess that it confuses me then why we're having this conversation.
Well, each of those various phases or components of the DRI that weren't approved initially to be built at that time have to come in and receive their approval.
Piece. Gotcha. Right. All right. Thank you. Well, with that, we'll ask the applicant to come up. Thank you, Mr. Sean.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jamie Eubanks, EUBANKS, with Jenkins Engineering. Obviously, we were before this board about a month ago, so I won't rehash everything, but for the benefit of those who may not have been here, I'll just briefly touch on a couple of things. And I think first and foremost is what Stephen said. This is a vested DRI that's been around since 1991 with various extensions and iterations thereforth. The applicant is not asking for anything that is not approved in that DRI. I think that's the gist of this entire conversation. But beyond that, last time there were some questions about notifications. We went back and forth, as you know. It was ultimately discussed with Attorney Atkinson, who said, to quote him, the word cure. The best way to cure this is to continue it for a month. During that time, we went ahead and sent out new notifications, anyhow, just as a courtesy, that included the entire condominiums. That was aerial dunes as well as Surfside, just to ensure that everybody has those notices, so that there's no confusion, no questions, even though the attorney said it was cured by continuing it. So I did want to point that out. In terms of the development itself, we're blessed from a civil engineering side. All the infrastructure is at the site. Seascape has water, has sewer. They're both stubbed out to the property. Stormwater stubbed out to the property. We have a master stormwater permit, stormwater plan. The roadway is to the property. Everything we need for development is to this piece of property. This actually started a development a long time ago. There's actually pilings that are in the ground at this property because it started and it stopped when the market turned. You know, there's some things that I did notice. I noticed Stephen said most of the comments that you received in the big packet that came today are the same. There was one that was different, and I do want to address it. There was a testimony that spoke to the pilings, the vibration, the dust requirements. And I just want to be clear, all those are items that have to be met legally. There's questions about dewatering and stormwater runoff during construction. That falls under your NPDES permit. Everything in there I can tell you the applicant agrees to, and quite frankly, the applicant has to meet legally. You know, I think beyond that, we covered a lot last meeting, so I'll leave it at that, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you do have.
Any questions for Mr. Eubanks from the commission?
What are the heights of the buildings surrounding this?
So Aerial Dunes 1 and Aerial Dune 2 are both 24 stories. Those are the sister condominiums, if you will. Surfside itself, I'm not sure of the height of Surfside. Sorry, so my apologies. 15 stories. And then there's Majestic Sun as well. I'd say it's 15 plus, but I don't know the exact number. But this is the sister of 12. So this is the sister condominium, Aerial Dunes 1 and Aerial Dunes 2, which are both 24 stories.
And all of those taller buildings are part of Seascape, or?
Correct. Yes, okay. It's actually the neighbor to their west.
Okay. And there seems to be some county property to the east of that, if I saw on the
That's
map.
the, I believe you're talking about the South Lawn Utility Spray Fields, most likely.
That the property to the northeast of that? There, I just noticed
Yes.
on one of the maps it said public facilities.
That's correct. So
It
that's
looks like
the
a
South
barren
Lawn
wasteland.
Community Spray Fields. You'll see a number of open fields right there. That's where they discharge wastewater when needed.
Okay, that was my question.
Mhm.
So, good job, Forrest. All right, I'm going to open it up for public
I'll be
comment.
here.
For public testimony, I suppose that's the more proper term. I'm going to note that unless somebody specifically requests, and I grant the opportunity to speak longer, I'm going to limit everybody's comments to 3 minutes. So that being said, are there any people in the audience that would like to get up and speak to this project? Yes, sir. You raised your hand first, so please come to the podium, state your name, and spell your last name.
Yeah, my name is Kamal Tawfiq, and basically, you can see my spelling on the report that I distributed, or that's been distributed. And last name is Tawfiq, Tawfiq, and I'm a professor of civil engineering at FAMU FSU College of Engineering. I'm here actually to talk about this proposed project and its adverse impact on the surrounding community. I looked at the project, and as you can follow me if you want, I mean, some figures that I have in the report, starting with 1A, that shows the proximity of the proposed project to an existing community. Actually consists of 6, I think, subdivisions or neighboring, starting with some of them actually were built in the 70s, some of them were built in the 80s, and that actually matters a lot, you know, the date. So the new project is a huge structure. It's very heavy, 24-story building. The area is very large. What does this mean technically? And now I'm talking about the technical issue. It means basically the depth, impact, and the influence, it may go to hundreds of feet. The same thing also horizontally. So if you look at figure 1A, okay, it shows the proximity of this new building to the existing structures. So that means that they're going to be influenced by this structure. It is very close. Actually, if you look at even this picture, here it shows like one of the houses that's almost on the property line for this new building, and I can actually measure that like maybe less than 30 feet. And this also matters a lot, because if you look at all the other buildings that were built over there, they're a little bit far away from these houses. So, but this one here is gonna get very close to it, and that's gonna have that negative impact. Now, this new building, because it's very heavy, it has to be built on two types of foundations, all right? The first choice is to go with deep foundations, and this has its own problems. The second type would be shallow foundations. Shallow foundations, it's not like, small footings. It's just gonna be a big slab that we call it mat foundation or rock foundation. Now, the site over there, many people, they're gonna say, oh, we have a good soil, that be sand, but I couldn't see any records on what kind of sublayers that we have over there. And if we assume that we have some weak layers, that's gonna cause settlement. If we use shallow foundations, and the settlement that's gonna happen is gonna affect the surrounding houses. That's the first adverse impact. So we're talking about settlement. And that settlement, by the way, it may be also long-term. That means it may continue for a long, long time. So that's the first thing that I'm worried about technically, that this building may affect the existing buildings and the structures and causing settlement for these, and that's definitely is gonna cause some kind of structural damage. So if you look at the report here, figure 3, as just an idea about what kind of foundation that's gonna come to this structure, and somebody else is gonna be different foundation. That's all what we know in textbooks and in civil engineering. So deep foundation, shallow foundation, or the combination of both of them. Now, if we assume that we're gonna go with deep foundations, we have choices. If they go with piles, which is very common here in this area, we're talking about vibrations. Lots of vibration. And we have two types. We have a ground vibration, and then we have the noise. And both of them are regulated. I couldn't see any ordinance in the county here of how to regulate these things, although there are high-rise buildings, because this is very, very important. Just to remind you, the Champlain building, the one that collapsed in Miami, 2021, one of the reasons that brought to the committee that they were investigating, by the way, the report is not yet there, was the vibration of an existing of the new structure on the existing structure that collapsed. People were there, they noticed the vibration, and they sent warnings. Nobody listened to them at that time. After the collapse, they start to gather information. We don't know what the finals, the final conclusion. It's gonna come actually next year. It's too late. But this is one of the reasons why the construction vibration.
I need you to kind of wrap it up, because I'm sorry.
3 minutes.
3
Okay.
minutes.
So basically, the construction vibration is a big issue. The second issue is we have water table, high water table. So if they're gonna build any shallow foundations, they're gonna have to dewater the site. Dewatering the site, that means reducing the water table there. It's gonna cause settlement and may cause structural damage for the existing structures. So these are actually the 3 major issues that I have not seen any comments on them in the previous minute that you have online. I printed actually some of them. There are some technical questions and that have been addressed, but these issues were not tackled before, and that's gonna cause problems in the future.
So I have one question. The adjoining 24-story units, the 24 for the aerial dunes 1 and 2, didn't they have the same soil? I mean, they're next door.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't see any geotechnical report.
So they don't have any issues.
But he's also.
Well, it may be in an existing building, but I have seen from my practice 47 years that sometimes you have a sound site here. You just go a couple of feet here. Just a good example, the College of Engineering in Tallahassee, if you've been there, next door, immediately we discovered that we have unregistered landfill. We found glasses and textile 20 feet in the ground. So what was that area was used before, nobody knows. Additionally, I have in Panama City something that was close to the beach, and then we found actually that we didn't have sand. We have very thick layer of organic soil. So we'll never know if we don't have documents on these issues.
And he's also commenting that the land around, if you look at this picture, the land around aerial dunes is more substantial than, you know, the 30 feet between this building and that
So-
building.
But before you can get any kind of permit to build a 24-story unit, you're gonna have to do all these testing, the soil testing, everything, and that you're talking about.
Right.
So you're saying it hasn't been done yet. Well, no, but it'll have to be done in order to comply with regulations.
I haven't seen documents for that.
Well,
to say,
it will have
but
to
that's,
be.
again, you know, those are the adverse impacts that I'm saying, and sometimes they don't consider that, especially the construction vibration and the noise. So dewatering, this is another issue. The houses are very close to this building, and if they start to dewater the site, for some reason, if they're gonna build a shallow foundation, then the surrounding structures are gonna start to settle. The problem is that kind of settlement or any kind of cracks or any kind of structural damage that's gonna go is gonna become after the fact. And that's why the problem between the developer, between the contractor, between the engineer, they're gonna start to deny this is not because of us, those are pre-existing conditions and so on. So I'm just actually bringing this to you because there are some houses that were built in 1970. We didn't have that strict regulations at that time. So any problem that's gonna happen at the site is gonna affect these houses.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Yes, sir. Come to the podium and state your name and spell your last name.
John Owens, O-W-E-N-S. I own a property at 1096 Scenic Gulf Drive, Surfside Resort. And I'm here, last time I was here for the notices, and Mr. Eubanks, he was correct. We did receive our, what is called a supplemental notice, and he said he sent them to Aerial Dunes and Surfside. I was just curious, did they also go up to Amalfi? And I just haven't been able to reconcile the list that was provided to the county. And
I know the list exists with the planning department.
I've got the list, but I got it today, so I haven't, it's PDF, so I hadn't been able to go down and count everything and see. I'll just ask, if he could answer, if he would, that would be easy.
Mr. Eubanks, do you know if notification was sent to the Amalfi condominiums? Yeah, okay. You can just have a seat there, that way you won't have to keep walking back and forth.
The supplemental notifications were sent to Aerial Dunes and
Surfside,
Surfside.
Okay.
So correct.
okay, but not to Amalfi.
No, now, I can't speak to the original. I don't know if Amalfi was in the original 300 feet. If it was, it was sent. If it wasn't, it wasn't sent.
Okay,
And then also, the only last thing on that subject is, I did notice after we left the last meeting, we got copies of the records that was put, and on the affidavit for mailing, there was 2 errors. One was it said that everybody within 1,000 feet was mailed. I know when the new documents came in, they circled that and said 300. So they had, I guess that's a correction of a prior affidavit, but there was another error on that affidavit as well. They said they filed those mailings by the required mailing date of June 18th, which was 6 days after our meeting. So that affidavit, I mean, had 2 major errors in it that was filed with the county.
okay, that needs to be taken up with the planning department.
Okay, well, I mean.
Right, and bringing it to light here is perfect.
Right,
and we'll
okay,
get it
yeah.
into the minutes, but
Okay, and beside that, and the one question I had is, if the commission moves this forward to the county commission, and then the county commission moves it forward to, that they can move forward with the project, rather, are the, and Mr. Eubanks said that they're asking for no variances. If when they hit, rubber hits the road and they're ready to start construction, all the permits, if anything, at that point in time, like the setbacks, like on the Walton County, I think they're within 6 inches of being up against those setbacks. Will those variances be granted there, or do they have to come back, or what is the process then? If they, like the ISR, I think the impervious, I forget the number, is at 69.8, and it says in the county thing they're at 70 for that lot. So that's less than 500 feet. So if 500 or 600 more feet of asphalt, whatever has happened, is applied in the final numbers when they get their permits, will that just be automatically granted, or does they have to come back to the county and submit requests for variances to the current DRI?
I'm gonna ask Mr. Schoen to answer that question.
So this process approves the development, right? But they still have to come in for a building permit review. So that ISR will be double checked at that time. And if it's in excess of what's been approved by this board and the Board of County Commissioners, if that's the way it goes, then we'll have to take it up at that point.
Isn't there also an as-built that's submitted at the time of CO?
That's right.
Stephen, what governs the setbacks? Is this something that's in the DRI, or is it Land Development Code?
I'd have to look. Again, I didn't review this project, but I'll look through the record and see
Maybe
what it says
Mr.
for you.
Eubanks can help us out with
I
that.
suspect he could. Are the setbacks in the DRI or?
I was actually gonna ask Ken to come up since he's so invested in the entire process.
I'll look through the packet as well.
Thank you.
And I will address one thing, because Ken will probably say it when he comes up here too. It's Ken Metcalf with Stearns Weaver Miller, who worked on the original DRI far longer than I have. There's actually an overall ISR of 75% for this entire development. There's some courtesy information that's provided in our documents, if you will. But again, the Seascape DRI itself is 75%. So.
And we 70 off of what's in the documents provided by the county. So is that for that lot, or is that's what that's our question?
If I'm wrong, it's 75% for the entire Seascape DRI.
Development.
Good afternoon. Ken Metcalf with Stearns Weaver, for the record. There's a note in the development order that states that setbacks apply externally. They don't apply within the internal boundaries, if you will, of the DRI. So this property wouldn't be subject to internal setbacks. And what you just heard is correct in regard to the impervious surface ratio. That applies on a DRI-wide basis. And also, I should mention that the floor area ratio, that only applies to commercial uses, so that's not applicable to this project.
Thank you.
And thank you for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this project? Yes, ma'am, with her hand up. With the paper. Oh, okay.
Anna Golden, Golden.
I'm gonna pull that down towards you. There
Short.
you go.
Thank you. So I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Eubanks for giving us the cure. Since I live in Majestic, we knew nothing about this until this meeting. So I don't know that solved it, but I want to say thank you that we have an opportunity to come today. Also, I was a little bit disappointed because we spent quite a bit of time putting together our public comments that they weren't shared with you. But I'm assuming those will all be read at some time. So Majestic Sun, while it is a very large complex, it's only 12 stories, so I want to make sure that's corrected. It's not 15. So that is our home. We live there. We are not owners that rent out every week. And just within the last 7 days, the traffic has already reached a level where we're waiting 40 minutes at times to get into our parking lot. So I would submit probably no one wants to wait 40 minutes to get into their home at night. So I know probably if this is approved, there will be further discussion about traffic flow, but that particular property, and the Grove is not even open yet, cannot absolutely accommodate any more traffic. We are waiting that period of time, 20 to 40 minutes, 20 minutes on a good day, 40 minutes on a bad day, to actually get into our home. So I would ask that you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Breerwood, Breerwood. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for all the services that you do here. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say that the house I grew up in was impacted greatly by a foundation being put in 2 blocks away from my house. The vibrations I don't know if it was the same type of structure, but I think it was pilings. But it doesn't really matter. The vibrations are there. It's going to affect the properties all around them. So I would tell the homeowners around this structure that's being built, take pictures of every inch of your house inside and out. And if the structure your structure is impacted, you can go back to this group of people here. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Teel, T-E-E-L. I live at 1030 Scenic Gulf, which is the little sea cabins condos. While we are surrounded by high-rise condos, this one is right on our back door. I mean, they're going to be able to look in our kitchen, watch our televisions. I mean, that's how close this is. I've submitted pictures of all of this. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to look at it, but I do have pictures I would like to pass around. This is on a weekend, and as Ms. Golden said, we can't get out down the street now. We can't get out of our homes, and I live there too. So it's become an issue. And I just think y'all really need to think. Drive down there, come visit us. See what it's like. See what it's like on a Tuesday. That's even a 40-minute wait. See what it's like on a weekend. It's not good. My only other question is, sorry, the Grove is not open. It is part of Seascape. They are following your new rules and regulations. That's all that we ask. They're building a 4-story complex. Why do we need another 24-story? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Noelle Labrie. My last name is L-A-B as in boy, R-I-E. I too, like Cheryl, I live in sea cabins. My family has been coming to Miramar Beach since the 1980s. My parents retired to Miramar Beach in about 15 years ago. I bought my first rental investment in 2011, and I now own 4 properties. 3 are investment properties. One of them is on the ground floor at Surfside, and I live in sea cabins. The pictures that were presented to you, and those very first one, that's me, right there at the very back, 18 feet from where this parking structure is going to be built. So I have some very grave concerns about how this structure is not only going to impact me as a resident, but what it's going to do for our renters and what it's going to do for our other owners who own investment properties here. As an owner in Seaside who has, or in Surfside rather, who has a rental property, I can tell you already that I know I am facing a loss of income due to increased congestion in traffic. I know that my renters already, my rental income has gone down because my renters have told me that our beaches, instead of being the idyllic beaches that they know of, are becoming increasingly more crowded, and they're choosing to go to other places. So our area is known for this incredible tourism industry, and yet we are significantly impacting tourism by adding increased congestion, which means on the beaches, on the roads, and in the units. I own investments. I want people to stay there. I'm not saying that I don't want our tourists to come. I do. I depend on their income for my rentals as well. But I want it to be a sustainable, as was mentioned in the invocation, a sustainable environment that my renters can come and enjoy the beaches. In addition to that, in this property, I work for a real estate brokerage here in Miramar Beach, and I can tell you that I know that we already have 13 months of condo inventory that is waiting for people to purchase. The real estate market here right now is really slow. So we're talking about building another 246 units. Nobody's buying what's out there. We already have over a year's worth of inventory sitting on the market, and that's just condos. As a single woman living in this property and being 18 feet from this parking garage, as a resident, I can tell you that this proposes a safety risk to me. Already in sea cabins, we have trespassers. We have people coming in and out or trying to go in and out of this little teeny gate that we have in the back, which I'm certain we could reinforce. But the point of it is that I have people in my backyard now, and there's not even anything there yet. I literally live all the way at the very back of our property that is going to be right up to where this parking unit is going to be built. And it's a concern for me, as everything has been mentioned with regard to the noise and to the vibration and all of that. I am one of those units that was built in 1974 that I have to be concerned now of what's going to happen foundationally to my house where I live. From a safety standpoint, not to mention what the construction is going to do to the ecosystem. And yes, of course, I know that everything has to be tested and so on and so forth. I get that. The rodents and snakes that are going to be displaced by this construction are going to go somewhere already, because that is my front door and that is where I have to enter and exit my house. I know that there is a concern there. There's a concern for people. There's a concern for trespassers. There's the liability of injury from what could potentially happen if people are coming and going and trying to cut through to get from that unit and come through sea cabins, which they're already doing. So again, from the point of the invocation, I know that we are trying to make our area a better, cleaner, more sustainable place. And I don't see that this project is going to help with that. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Very much. Does anybody else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am, in the blue shirt.
Hello, my name is Maureen Espinoza. My last name is Espinoza. I also live in Sea Cabins at 1030 Scenic Gulf. I'm in the front in 2A, so I get to see the traffic all the time. I know I live in a resort area. I was prepared for that, but the last 2 or 3 years, it's gotten worse. The traffic going into the seascape area backs up all the way to Geronimo, which is where the fire department comes down. It backs up clear down to Holiday, which is the three-way stop at the end. And when they say it takes 40 minutes, it takes 40 minutes to get there. I've been in that traffic when the police have to come down, the beach patrol have to come down with their sirens on, and everybody's trying to get out of the way, and you have both ways that are on hold. And on top of that, the pedestrian traffic stops the traffic. So when you finally do get to roll, then you have pedestrian traffic. The safety is I know the police can't be there all the time. I wished I would have taken videos yesterday of the 3 golf carts going down the sidewalk. That is an everyday thing. Golf carts, motorbikes. Every now and then you'll get a small car going up and down, especially at night, to try to get out of the traffic. The whole traffic, I don't know how we can handle anything else, especially from Holiday over to Geronimo. It's unsafe for people to cross. I tell everybody when they cross, get eye contact with those drivers, because they've been sitting here for 40 minutes. They're looking at cars, they're not looking at you. And I just think that that needs to be explored, the traffic study, the safety for the people that are on the streets. The beaches are full. It's Umbrella City down there. They are so full. I don't know where we're going to put any more. And the love that people have for Miramar Beach, they're not going to be coming back here anymore. We're going to lose the rentals because it's so crowded now. I don't know how we're going to handle any more people there. But I do want just to think about the safety. And like they said, come down and visit us on a weekend, because it's eye-opening. And I love where I live, but it's eye-opening to see the traffic and the safety effect that I think is going to affect all of us.
I have a friend who owns a condo at Seascape west of Majestic Sun, so on the west side of the lake, so.
Yes, it is interesting, yes. Thank you so much.
Excuse me a second.
yes.
I'm just curious, are the beaches right in that area private to the various developments, or are they publicly open?
We have a public open to the west of us. I get confused. To the west of us, there is public area, and that's the umbrellas. There's Surfside has the private. We have the private, and then there's also a public that they just built, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago to the east of us, which is right off of, I don't know if it's right off of Geronimo. I think it's before Geronimo. It's right across from Amalfi.
Thank you.
And also, just to let you know, little sea cabins, we're only just single units with 2 stories. You know, like, we're surrounded by this. I don't know how we're going to be able to handle that building behind us.
Yeah, I've actually been on that beach multiple times and seen all kinds of crazy things happening. So of course I call code and they say, well, we don't have jurisdiction because it's private beach that has an agreement for public access.
Right.
That's what I've been told.
I don't know. Yeah.
So there's very little, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West.
It is.
So.
It is. Yes. There's a lot of things that go on down there that have been eye-opening for me. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Afternoon. Mary Kay Owens, last name Owens. I'd just like to speak to a few things. One of the things is I realize that you guys are trying to balance development with the rights of us as property owners, all of us who have owned, many of us more than 20 years, paid extensive taxes, done refurbishing all of our units, et cetera. And I feel that, you know, what is really unfair in this situation is you have 900 to 1,000 units in these 6 or 7 development areas around here that are existing, and yet you're choosing to put one developer's interest above all of the rest of us in the area. And, you know, from a public servant standpoint, we're very appreciative of what you guys do and respecting our property as owners, but this just completely flies in the face of it in terms of potential safety issues, potential rental income, damages to our property, long-term property values, all these different things. And so, you know, we really are very, you know, concerned and distressed about this. People have saved their entire lives to buy these properties. They're heavily invested in them, and you know, essentially our quality of life and everything around there is going to be seriously impacted and destroyed. The one thing we have concern from our residents that are elderly that live at Surfside, where I'm at, is we have a pet relief area and a sports deck that is right on the corner of where this property is going to be built. We're not sure how we're going to handle that. Are we going to have to shut that down for 2-3 years? What are we going to do? Rental people are not going to come. Residents that live there full time are going to have a very hard time trying to deal with their day-to-day life because it's a serious safety issue with something being built that tall. The dust, the debris, the air, possible, you know, harm to our pets because we have an enclosed area where they have to go. So we've heard that from a number of people. Obviously, you heard traffic. The one last concern is the original DRI development in 2022 came to you, and I believe Mr. Tricker might have been the only one that was on the Planning Commission at that time, so I'm sure he remembers this. The big issue was that the developer came and said, we want the permission to build the 32 single-family homes on this lot, as you recall. And we're just trying to understand what has changed since then, because supposedly it was an incentive. They came, asked for that. It was an incentive, they said, to the developer to not develop this 24-story building. So our concern is that that was done in 2022. In 2023, they came before the Technical Review Committee. They got approved to build the 32 homes. So at that point in time, we thought, hey, you know, that's what they're going to do. Then all of a sudden that goes away, and now we're looking at 2025, and now they want to build the 24-story building when you clearly had an option. And the Planning Commission at that point in time could have said, 24-story building is not consistent with what we want built. And yet you allowed them to keep the option for both. So that's something that I think, you know, just really is to think about what kind of incentive could you offer to the developer to do something that's more responsible for all of us around. So I think, you know, that really, you know, is something for you to think about in terms of 1,000 people's going to be damaged by this for one developer who actually has the option now to build the 32 homes. So I would like you to think about that, consider that. And, you know, obviously there's money involved in here. The property is now listed for $25 million for sale on the MLS as of today versus the $6 million that it sold for. So, you know, we're not stupid. We understand what's going on. But really, if you're interested in protecting the rights of all of us that live in the area, we would ask you to really consider that.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that hearing.
You don't
I
remember that
apologize.
meeting?
I don't remember
You're
it
the
at
only
all.
one that was listed on there that was still on the planning commission at that point in time.
Yeah,
But I
so-
feel that you were acting in good faith by saying, yes, we recognize we really don't want a 24-story building built. The community notes, they held 2 community meetings.
Is that what I said?
Well, in the community, well, you voted for it, so, you know, I'm just assuming that everyone on the planning commission thought, hey, this is a great idea. We're going to give them the ability to build a 32 single-family homes instead of this building. And in the 2 community meetings that were held, the minutes reflect that all 45 participants that participated in those 2 community meetings at that time said, we are so thankful that now there will be an option, and we hope they will not exercise the 24-story building option. And so, of course, they have chosen to do that now. And so, you know, we're just trying to understand at that point in time, you had the ability perhaps to have done some very strong incentives. And I don't know what all your incentives are that you could have offered the developer or what you could even offer them now. But this is just, you know, really giving one person rights over 900 to 1,000 people's rights when they have another option available to them.
I'm a little confused. You said that this 24-story unit wasn't approved until 2022?
No, I'm saying in 2022, as Stearns and Weaver report was given to you at that time, which you might not remember. Their whole justification for coming back to get an amendment to the DRI was to ask you to give them another option, which is to do a 32 single-family home. And they also wanted to keep the option on the table of the 24-story, which they obviously have invested for a long time. We're just trying to understand maybe what was in the Planning Commission's head at that time. I believe you had good intent. And I believe at that point in time you thought, hey, this is great. Let's give them another option that would be more amenable to the community, to all of us around, would not harm people in the community. And they did a switcheroo. They went to the Technical Review Committee shortly after you did that. They submitted the plans to do the 32 single-family homes, which I don't think any of us would have problems with. And then a year and a half later, boom, they switch and say, we're going to do the 24-story building now again. So,
Stephen, can you help out on this? Because in 1991, this 24-story, 246-unit building was part of the DRI.
yes,
And
it was.
now it was going to be reconsidered by somebody.
Well, it wasn't
take it out?
reconsidered. They
was an
added,
option.
they
They
added
added an
another
option.
option to give them the ability to do the 32.
Who's they? Who added it?
The Planning Commission approved it because the applicant came and asked, the developer on behalf of Seascape said, we want you to give us an option, which we want to consider a real strong incentive to develop the 32 single-family homes and not do the 24 option that they still had the ability to do.
But they still have a DRI with,
Mhm.
where I'm struggling is,
Yeah,
they have the DRI that says
do
they
it.
can build a 24-story
They still can, that's
building.
correct. Mhm.
Still need clarification. I'm
What?
sorry. But do you still need some clarification?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It sounded like you needed some clarification, but now
Oh,
I'm asking
yeah, I
if
was
you
like,
still need it.
in 1991, the DRI was approved by the county with the 24-story building.
I think that was
I think
vested
it was
rights.
it
That
was in the
wasn't DRI.
2000.
It was in the 2000.
Yeah, the 2000 change
Okay.
approved the 24-story.
Okay, so
Yep.
25 years ago, it was approved.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then, right, this DO in 22 provided that that other option for the 32 single family, but the
But that was an
developer-
option that
option.
Seascape can accept or ignore.
Yes.
That's correct.
But they led a lot of us to believe when they came to the technical review committee in 2023 that that's what they were going to do. And I also want to, for the record, tell you that we have owned our unit and we faced closest to this property in the Surfside building. We have not received, as of many of our, most all of our owners, we never received the DRI amendment certified letters in 2022. We didn't receive many communications over this, and we have polled many members in our building for that. And of course, we explained to you at the last meeting why the grid is structured wrong on the building, and your whole process is completely flawed for properly notifying people. Had we known about this back in 2022, you can assure yourselves we would have had a huge contingency here to say, use this as leverage to make the decision at that point in time. Developers asking to develop a 32 single-family home, which is much more amenable to your land use development plan long-term, but you chose to let them keep both options. And so, you know, we're confused about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak on the Echelon project? Thank you. All right. You've already spoken. Sorry. Seeing no more hands, I'm going to close public comment.
We're going to give the
Mr.
Jamie
Eubanks, I was
an
just going to
opportunity.
say,
All right.
give Mr. Eubanks an opportunity to come to the podium.
If you have a recollection or anything on the 32 lot subdivision versus the 24 unit condo.
So they did. So they, in 20, and of course Ken worked on that as well. In 2022, they came back and made that an option. You could do a 32 lot subdivision, or of course 240 unit, or excuse me, 24 story, 250 unit condominium. Just for the record, to be clear, it wasn't quite a quid pro quo in that. If you did the 32 lot subdivision, there was still a 175 unit condominium that could be built. So it wasn't one or the other, just to be clear. The master plan included an option for both if the 32 lots were built.
So the vested rights were always what they were and anticipated to be built.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I'll be brief. I mean, I think most of the things I spoke to and the public spoke to, we've addressed. Again, I do want to mention, in terms of structural design, construction management, you're correct. We're not to the building permit stage. We're not to the structural design stage. Quite frankly, that's out of my realm of expertise. All those things have to be met. All those things have to go through the legal process. There's, of course, now state requirements with condominiums that go beyond the local level. So I do just want to say again, you know, the law must be met on that. And beyond that, you know, I understand the position this board's in, obviously. And I think that's one of the reasons Stephen opened this up with mentioning the vested right of this property going back to 1991. If this was done today that wasn't part of Seascape, it would be limited to 4 stories. And there'd be other, you know, requirements there that are not due to this Seascape vested DRI. So I think I'll leave it at that. But if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, I understand the vested rights. You have the right to build that condo tower. I really think it would be in the property's best interest, take a hard look at that, because what you're talking about, I don't think is very compatible with the people that live there. And there's got to be a better solution that doesn't put a huge 24-story building within 18, 30 feet of somebody's backyard. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. And the second issue is public safety. And if you've got a 40-minute wait to get into the property, you know, and that, again, I know you got vested transportation rights, but things have changed since the time you got the DRI approved. Sounds to me like you got a huge traffic issue, should be addressed because it's a public safety issue. It's not just about the engineering, traffic counts. mobility fee or anything like that. It's about safety. And I think you need to address that before I can recommend that we approve this.
Sure, and just to that point, Mr. Tricker, we all understand you build anything, traffic comes. It doesn't matter. We know that this is a popular destination, this area in particular. Not going to argue that at all. To your point about traffic considerations and traffic improvements and things like that, yes, in a magical world, I think we all agree additional work should be done. What I will say to that is, you go to the concurrency management system. This is in there. Seascape DRI is included in there. And so everything that has been built in this area and surrounding area is doing so with those trips considered already. So there may have already been a threshold that required a turn lane here, or, I can't speak to specific projects I didn't work on. But in theory, those things have, and look, theory is one thing, I understand, but those things have been addressed throughout the process. I don't know that I can answer it better than that. I know that's not what you're looking for in particular, but.
Yeah, I just think there's a big concern there. And if I was the property owner, I'd be very concerned about the kind of things that I heard here tonight about problems with selling homes, problems with renting homes, and then you're going to pile a big old 24-story condo right in the middle of all that. I'd be very concerned about doing that. And I don't think it's in the public interest either from a safety point of view.
Do you have anything else?
Ma'am.
Okay. Planning commissioners, any comments, questions, anything for the applicant or for planning department?
Just a little clarification, no matter what we say, this is still coming up for the county commissioners.
Correct, and it will be heard at the next meeting.
Right, this month.
This month, yes.
So whatever we say doesn't really matter.
Well, that's.
Yeah, we've learned that over.
That's kind of true. I mean, it is a recommendation.
I have a question for Stephen. Since people keep talking about how this was already approved, they have the right to do it. Well, what exactly is the scope that's coming to us to say yes or no on what? Yeah. Not that we have any authority, but.
I think this kind of falls in line with Ms. Jacobson's earlier question in terms of just a DRI build out, right? So this is a particular component of the original proposal that it still requires review on a technical level to establish the standards and of the DRI as well as the appropriate standards of the LDC are being satisfied, and as well as entitlements of the DRI as well. So.
Any other comments or concerns? I have a couple of comments. I mean, I feel everybody's pain that lives down there on Scenic 98. Traffic is an issue. A really good friend of mine, as I said, lives in Seascape townhome on the west side of the lake. I also have friends that live west of there, like behind the coffee place. I don't remember the name of their development. And traffic's horrendous. And, adding 246 units is not going to fix that problem. Vacant condominiums is a huge issue, and not just in Miramar, but all along Walton County. And adding 246 more condos is, to me, is just absolutely appalling to think about. And the fact that our limited public beaches and that whole nightmare that I don't even want to get into, and how crowded they are, people aren't going to want to come here because it's difficult to find a place. But having said all that, I know that the DRI exists. It meets the land development code as it was in place when the DRI was first approved. And, I don't know what we as a commission, I mean, yes, on public safety and traffic, I'd love to say deny it because traffic is an issue in and of itself, but you know, the DRI already exists, so I feel like it's already a fait accompli. That's my 2 cents.
My 2 cents are the same. I hate it. I hate it. It's so frustrating, but I don't understand how we can deny it either.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I mean, I do. I think it's
And
horrible.
I understand the impacts that, all of it. I mean, we are all living it. I hate it. I wish we could do more.
I don't understand how we can be in a position where we feel like we have to vote yes on something we think we should vote no on. I mean, it doesn't.
Because legally.
Well, then why does it come to us if legally we have to approve it?
I 100%
Why do I
agree.
waste my time every month preparing for these meetings?
Trust me.
I have that same.
I agree with Forrest.
I've asked myself that
I agree
daily.
with,
If I was the developer, I would be very hesitant to sink this kind of money into this, knowing the vacancy rates that we have, knowing the beach overcrowding that we have. I don't want to be stuck with a building I can't fill up with people.
I agree. Not only that, but with the new condo laws in addition to it. They're terrible. They're horrible. They're expensive.
It doesn't make sense.
So I agree with Forrest. I don't think we have to approve it. Nobody's going to sue the county based on our decision.
Yeah, that's true.
And we need to give the BCC a strong indication of how we feel about the project. And the only way we can do that, well, there's 2 ways. We can deny it with comments, or we can approve it with recommendations.
Well, part of our decision is also to understand our scope of work, or what our purview is to review. And in this case, it's very limited. Does it meet the code? Does it meet the DRI? Does it meet the entitlements of the DRI?
And that's what I'm
And your emotions
struggling with.
can't
These
factor into
these
it.
are not emotions. These are
Facts.
real, on-the-ground facts. These good people that live there are confronted with a really bad situation, and I think we need to send a message to the BCC and let them know that we're not happy with it. And I don't believe for a minute that they can do anything about it, except perhaps there may be an opportunity to take a look at the traffic situation, see if that can be alleviated somehow. Look at some compatibility issues. Are there any ways to mitigate the impact on the people that live close to this tower? I mean, everybody in that area is going to be impacted by this thing.
Put that in our recommendations that
I think so.
that caveat
think so.
those and say those are going to be, we approve, here's some contingencies.
Or deny, and
Or
here's some
deny, and here's some
contingencies.
contingencies, either or.
I just want to make clarification. I don't know that it holds any bearing on your current conversation, but the Board of County Commissioners adopted a special magistrate process. This application came in before that was adopted.
So they get the choice.
It has been determined that those applicants have the option to go one way or the other. So it's my understanding they haven't made that decision. So I can't tell you which way or the other, but I just want to put that out there. It's mentioned that it's going to the board, but
It may
we don't
not,
know.
may go to the magistrate, the ALJ.
What does that, I mean, Stephen, what does that change?
It's
I
not,
mean,
that hasn't, no,
What is the
no project
magistrate
has gone through that process yet.
We don't know what that magistrate process looks like. What does that even mean?
So I'm going to defer to our land use attorney.
Okay,
She can
perfect.
put that into.
Some of that
in
too.
that as well.
Brooke, she can
I would
insist
love to
on.
understand that.
The quasi-judicial hearings are going to be heard before a administrative law judge. The ones that we're particularly going to use are from the Department of Administrative Hearings in Tallahassee. They will be assigning a judge that will come over. And quasi-judicial hearings are very much like any other legal proceeding. You have a standard law that you are given to apply. You take evidence and testimony. Then based off of the standard you be given, you would render a verdict. In the same way, the judge will hear these matters and render a decision to go before the board to make a potential final decision on based off of the report that's prepared.
I would say if you really want to look at an example of what this will probably look like, if you watch some of our code board hearings, that's really how the process is going to look. So it's going to look at a slight more formal than what the county commissioners appears. but less formal than a full courtroom hearing. So it'll take place here. We won't have to, go to Tallahassee or something. They will come here. We will conduct everything here. So I would really recommend going and watching some of the old code board hearings.
But there's just going to be one individual making the decision.
Right.
And, okay, I have another question since we're talking about the process. Will there be testimony, will there be, special witnesses, subject matter experts that can get up and speak to certain issues?
The procedures are not going to change. It's
Yeah.
just who's going to be hearing
It's
it is
who's
going to be
gonna
different.
make the
Even now,
decision.
with quasi-judicial hearings, you do take testimony from experts, from
Right.
witnesses on that, and
Right.
you do take evidence. When the report's recepted into evidence, that's what you're doing there. So that will remain the same. Just
Okay.
who's hearing it, and that process is what's going to change there. Just the fact it's being heard by a administrative law judge instead of the board of county commissioners, and they'll prepare the report and they'll submit to the board. I think for final approval is how we end up doing that.
Okay.
But they'll essentially hear the evidence and they'll prepare essentially their recommendation or order regarding what has been presented and the law that applies regarding it.
I think people have gotten a little bit concerned of the idea that you're going to have to demonstrate some sort of party status in order to comment, because I think sometimes we act a little bit more lax here of, and not really stating that point that, that this person is an affected party because they're a neighbor. We sort of, sometimes we take that for granted when they make a presentation to us. And so that's why we see a difference when there's, an attorney here representing the applicant, that we ratchet up kind of that feeling that everybody has to prove why they're here and have the ability to say what they say, but it's still it's not necessarily public comment, but like we always do of, the public is allowed to comment as long as they can demonstrate that they have an interest in this.
Right.
Then they're allowed to present their testimony.
What we,
As a
as
commission.
a commission, recommend, how does that weigh into it?
So all of the minutes from this, there'll be a transcript of this. All of that is going to go to the administrative law judge to be included in their evidentiary
Decision-making.
packet to move forward with their decision.
Transcript, a formal transcript?
That's the expectation, is a transcript. So we've been talking about what the dynamics of that's going to look like.
We don't have a recorder here tonight.
It's all digitally recorded. So
Okay.
and we have minutes being taken. So
It's rare you get a full court report. If you go to a court for a judge anymore, it's rare there's actually a court report that's going to be sitting there unless you
Oh,
pay
really?
for one. A lot of them do it through a digital recordings and can be submitted for
So,
transcripts.
so if we're going to do that, we need to get transcripts of all public meetings. And should be online along with the video. I mean, if it's automated,
I mean, there's always the potential for that.
they do that in Okaloosa County, by the way.
We do. So in Walton County does the same. If we have a hearing in front of a circuit or county judge and we need a transcript of it, then we'll get the court reporter to get a copy of the hearing and then make a transcript from it.
I'm
So
saying we ought to do it for all public meetings.
Well, this is online. This is on YouTube.
It's online, but you don't get a transcript of it. You can't get one.
that's going to have to be something that we would have to discuss pretty significantly with
And it-
our
and
county
it-
CFO.
and it's an
'cause that's
automated
gonna be a huge
process.
expense.
You know, YouTube will provide you with the transcript if it's set up with closed captioning, I believe.
It
That's how
does.
works.
Yeah.
And you can get a transcript of any meeting that's been closed captioned. That's all you got to do.
I'll tell you, Mr. Tricker, having held multiple code appeals and other appeals of hearings there, even if there is not a court report, we've had people come and get meetings transcribed from the digital recordings. So that's something somebody needs. People have been in the past requested them and had them prepared.
Yeah, in Okaloosa County, I believe they implemented it because of ADA considerations. People that are hearing impaired, you have to provide for them. So I think it's a good idea.
All right, let's get back to this issue. Wait.
If I could just add one more thing, and it's not necessarily about this, but I did want to point out to Mr. Tricker specifically, we did change the way that we have taken the minutes in our meetings. So I just wanted make sure you saw that and recognize that. I think, I'm hoping that it meets your earlier questions and requests for that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, thank you very much, appreciate it.
You're also going to see a difference in the formality of how we're presenting when Mr. Baranti presents his packets to you. You know, it's done as exhibits, so that way we make a cleaner record moving forward to somebody outside of the county that's going to be reviewing this
In case
later.
it goes to a magistrate.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
So
back to
can we have a motion to approve the 32 individual home option and reject the
No.
24?
No, if you're gonna
Thought
reject the
I'd try.
24, just reject the 20. Make a motion to deny, and you can state why.
I'd like to move that we deny because it's not a safe option for the neighborhood.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Any
What is
more?
the safety based on?
Traffic.
The testimony, partially the testimony of the expert witness of civil engineering, Mr. Tawfig, and partially on the expert witnesses that live in the neighborhood and are going to have to live through the construction.
Any other comments? The motion is to
Flat out deny.
to recommend to the BCC to deny.
Yeah, and I would like for, if this does get approved, I'd like for there to be a clause in there that fleshes out a little bit our reasons for denying it, based on what Forrest was talking about. And I think also, in my mind, compatibility is a concern.
Traffic and safety.
I think public safety is the big one, and I think there are steps that could be taken to mitigate the issue that they have down there. And, you know, piling that much extra traffic into something that's already really bad, I think is a serious issue.
Any other comments from the Planning Commission? Okay, I'll call for the vote. The motion is to deny moving it to the BCC. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries 5-2. All right.
nay.
Wait.
Nay, nay.
Oh,
Right.
I thought there was,
What I say?
you nay?
Oh, you were a
Three.
nay? I'm sorry.
Wait.
To deny. To deny moving, so you're saying nay. Okay. So the motion is 4-3. I'm sorry. All right. Our next
We need to have buttons.
agenda item, Mr. Schoen, would you like to introduce it?
So we want to let people.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, let's take like a 5-minute break, let people clear, and
Take a Snickers bar break.
What's going on, Mr. Barante? Please.
So, if the county commission ends up saying,
The light on it. In scope.
Now you're up. Now I'm up. All these other people that are still here are here. Hey, could you imagine if we hadn't gotten rid of?
Got one of those too. Kitties. Yeah, yeah. How are you doing? 4 days. So Yeah. It says 250. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds
Thanks, Steve.
Cost me what? Shipping is free. It cost me $50 to transfer. The guy sent it back, so I had to pay for shipping back and back. So you watch her send it. I was like, she's on the list. It's like a real. So I called around and people were like, left in Panama City, it was a pawn shop, and I called the guys like, $100 a day, I don't care.
Yeah.
$50. I'm like, okay. That was the only glitch. It went back, so it took 2 weeks instead of 4 days. Really? They say it was my fault. Why would I need to call it? But I'm getting my own.
No, I don't think we have. Good to meet you, sir.
You too.
Are you on a tripod?
No.
To hit that quarter?
You're transitioning. How's it going for you?
Oh, it's awful. It really is. But I'm hanging in there. So, yeah.
I thought you did a good job for what it's worth.
Well, I appreciate it.
After that fiasco, I don't know if we go before the board. I don't know if we will go before the board or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a safer bet in front of the.
That's kind of where I'm landing.
Yeah.
How many shots did they hit?
Hopefully the board would follow the law.
They haven't in the past, so yeah. No.
Surprised by this. And a
Yeah.
lot with the staff recommendation and their understanding there's legally vested rights.
Yeah. You would think that it would just be right on through, but we live in a strange country.
That's for sure. It's nice to meet you.
Beautifully strange. Yeah. You too.
When I bought from you, what brand was
It's not the old age or the M4.
Sorry. No, I'm so mad right now. I cry. I know.
can last 25 years without being.
I am so frustrated right now because everything that we are doing is just a waste of time. Like, we are wasting our time. For sure. It's like so stupid.
I read that in people, I was having dinner with some friends of mine.
No, when I saw that this
talking
morning.
about about the beach, and I said, oh, go ahead, the governor just signed it. They said, oh, yeah, but they don't affect our beach at all because, and I was like, my
When I
head
saw,
because
when
I can't find it on news sources.
when I saw the SB 180 thing this morning, I literally had a mental breakdown. Because you know, every thing that we have done since August is getting undone. They said, our county attorney recommended that the two neighborhood ones that we did, Point Washington and Cedar, to undo that.
I saw that. I saw that.
Undo our, the monster things, all of it is out there. Like,
I was pissed off.
Yeah.
To allow those two guys in Old Seaside
Oh, the other thing, you know what they did the last, they emergency allow.
Boy,
I know.
I'll be crossing my legs through this whole thing. You guys got to switch back and speak.
It's upset his whole evening. He's got to go to the bathroom. Let him go. Repeatedly. It is. We need a break. I don't know. It looks like a lot of people left. I want to get it over with too, but I'm so mad right now. I'm like, I'm so mad. Like, I'm trying to not be so mad right now, but I came here furious, and now I'm even more furious.
Because
we have no.
Can I start for you right now?
I'm not up for it. Yes, she just took it. You got your heart rate. It was already up. I thought that too.
Either way, they both listen to their
All right, I just lost the commissioner, but as soon as he comes back, we're going to get started. We're not quite there. He is. Yoo-hoo, Fred. The bell. Wow, there was a line.
But before we proceed, if I could just for the record, I think there's some confusion on what the motion was actually for and the count for the motion.
Okay.
I know that the recommendation was to deny.
Yes.
But I think there was a little bit of question there.
4 ayes, 3 noes.
3 nays. Okay, so 4-3 to recommend denial.
Correct.
Okay, we got it. Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry. I confused that situation, and I apologize.
There was a lot going on.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, so if we're ready to proceed?
We are ready.
All right, this is the last item. It is number 5. It is the Sunliner Diner. It is a request to approve by final order. It is project number MAJ-000044. And it is being reviewed, or has been reviewed, by Mr. Baranti. And I'm going to ask him to introduce it to you.
Can I ask real quick, is this MAJ25000044? Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. So we're going to do this a little different format-wise. So if there's any questions, I'll gladly answer them as we go.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this is our first time, so let's all just bear together. This application was made on November 14th, 2024, and that's when the pre-app was. The application itself was submitted April 3rd, 2025. Technical Review Committee meeting was on May 7th of 2025. And obviously the Planning Commission is today. The TRC made the recommendation to approve and move it to the Planning Commission, and also, as I will go over in a little bit, the acting director determined that to change this from a minor to a major to go through the magistrate process. There is no magistrate date set yet on this, but the applicant has requested that this goes to the magistrate, so it will go through that process. For the staff report, all comments have been addressed, and this project meets the LDC and the comprehensive plan. May I enter Staff Exhibit 1, the staff report, and inserts into the record, please?
So entered.
May I enter Staff Exhibit 2, and you had this electronically, this big packet that we're calling Staff Exhibit 2 is all public comments I received before and up to the TRC. So may I enter that in the record, please?
So entered.
Thank you. Staff Exhibit 3 is what was received before the TDC or TRC, but after the due date. So can I enter this into the record, please?
So entered.
Staff Exhibit 4 is comments that I received since your staff report was entered to the record. Can I enter that in the record, please?
So entered.
Staff Exhibit 5 is a public comment letter. It's in front of you from Linda J. DeFore, Esquire. May I enter that into the record, please?
So entered.
And then the final staff exhibit to be entered record, number 5, is the director's determination and explanation why we went from the minor to the major, and it was from Mr. Schoen to David Smith. May I enter that in the record, please?
So entered.
So everything's been entered in the record. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me before I turn it over to Mr. Smith?
I have none.
Yes, is Linda DeVore here to testify?
I don't see her.
Okay.
Received this like yesterday afternoon.
Okay, so we have not seen this. Do you think we could take a couple minutes to
Sure.
review it?
Sure.
Would that be okay, Madam Chair?
Sure. I don't have a copy, but
Wait, is that this?
yeah.
It's basically her giving a synopsis about the covenants and restrictions, which obviously is a civil matter between the owner and the HOA, not that we don't enforce those.
But she's a good lawyer, and I just like an opportunity
That's
to
fine.
look at this.
That's fine.
Another copy?
Yeah, is there another
You
copy?
each should have a copy.
Don't.
Our chair must have given me her copy.
Okay.
I have a copy.
I can take care of you.
Thank you. Okay, bear with us for a couple minutes while we read this.
Yes, ma'am.
And just while you're reading, that is in the electronic record and
Okay.
accessible to the public.
Okay, thank you.
And everything, all your files that you requested are also there and accessible to the public.
Excellent. Thank you.
Actually, twice.
Twice?
Yes.
Yep.
I will turn it over.
Well, I had a question for staff, or it may even be for council. The director's decision to make this major, I want to make sure that we're on terra firma, that we're reviewing this. As I understand it, in the Land Development Code, Chapter 1 outlines 2 conditions to be met for it to be determined to be a major development order. The first is the proposed development is part of a larger parcel for which development is anticipated and would likely exceed the limits for a minor development plan when in conjunction with the larger parcel. As I understand it, this is the last lot of the subdivision to be built.
That's correct.
So there's not any additional development to be considered.
That's correct.
So I don't think A applies. B is the proposed development will have a potential impact on public facilities, natural resources, or public safety based on location, complexity, or the hazardous nature of the use. Does this
But
Has it been determined that this development will produce any of that?
But also later in the code, it says, or anything else the director may determine necessary. And the director determined, because of the public concern and outreach, that it was better to give it the complete public hearing process.
All right. I wasn't aware of the all-encompassing portion of that.
Just so I could speak on, thank you, Bob. My decision was based on that second part more than anything else, relating to impact on facilities and safety. I spoke at the meeting directly relating to the potential for traffic to back up on 30A with a simple malfunction of the drive-through gate that is a T to access into the restaurant and the existing residential development.
Okay.
And the nature of the development, proposed development being having rush hours, if you will, during various meal times that could exacerbate any sort of potential issue there. That was my reasoning there.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Baranti.
Just reminded,
Sorry.
I apologize, by our attorney that today's hearing is not to determine whether it meets the criteria to be the major or minor. It's to hear the presented project.
Understood.
Correct.
I just want to make sure we weren't doing this in vain.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Good afternoon, board members. I'm Stephen Tatum from Matthews & Matthews here on behalf of the applicant. This is a little bit different format, as they've already said, so I guess I'm going to have to go through some details that normally Bob would have shared with y'all about what the project actually is. But before that, I want to introduce our team. It's our dream team, I would call it. Our architect is Levi Wiegand. Engineer is David Smith, and our planning consultant is Tina Ekblad. This is the Sunliner Diner project. It is a application on for a diner to be constructed as part of as the second phase of the Blue Water Landing subdivision that was created back in 2021. This is well, let me just give you a little bit of history about that particular development order. There was 35.19 acres total involved with this property to begin with. Of that, D.R. Horton eventually received a development order for a 31-lot subdivision, single-family home subdivision, and then an out parcel that is a commercial parcel. That's the way it's labeled on the plat. It was in the development order as a 20,000 square foot shopping center, of which restaurants is one of the uses that is allowed in shopping center. As part of that 2021 development order, there was also impact fees paid. DR paid over $1 million in impact fees on this project, which also included the traffic or transportation or proportionate fair share portion that came about as a result of the 20,000 square foot shopping center. So proportionate fair share and traffic concurrency has already been taken care of back in 2021 for this commercial parcel, assuming that we don't exceed the number of trips that the 20,000 square foot would have created. Also, during that process, D.R. Horton had to, or chose to, put a conservation easement on 22.98 acres of that entire property. That conservation easement was given to Nakusi, or I think it's actually everything was deeded to Nakusi at this point. So you've got a lot of history with this particular project. It went through many, many, many TRC meetings before it ever even got to a planning board stage. But ultimately, they worked out a compromise that was approved. And part of that originally approved plan did include this commercial parcel. So fast forward to today. What are we asking for? We're asking for approval of I've got in my notes here 10,000, but it's actually 10,086 plus or minus square foot diner known as the Sunliner Diner, on the 1.77 acres that is the commercial parcel. There will also be 71 parking spaces, which is about 5 in excess of what's required by code. 8 bicycle spaces, a loading and delivery area, landscaping that's consistent with the 30A scenic corridor landscaping requirements. And that's really it. Just want to point out again, restaurants are associated with shopping center uses. So, putting a restaurant in this particular area is consistent with what was already approved in the original development order. However, we're back here before you as a major based on Mr. Schoen's recommendation or determination. So we are requesting approval of this diner. Your staff report contains, that Bob moved in earlier, it contains our site plan, building elevations, our landscaping package, a site lighting study, and a sound study. All of that is included in your package. The project, according to your staff report and according to the scenic corridor review, it meets the scenic corridor requirements, it meets the land development code requirements, it meets the comprehensive plan. So that said, the project should be able to be built as a matter of right. Whether or not and you'll hear a lot of this, and I think you've probably already read some of the public comment, but whether or not people feel like it fits in, and whether or not you in particular like the building, that's not within the purview of your review today. What you're here for is to determine, does it meet the requirements of the code or doesn't it? And it does. Your expert staff says it does. Our expert consultants say it does. So we just urge you to approve it. And I'm going to leave it at that because I think we've got a lot of people that want to talk, unless you have questions for me.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So it's zone mixed use?
The future land use is mixed use. The actual zoning is small neighborhood, which allows neighborhood commercial uses. And as I said, this area is already approved for that particular use.
Yeah, neighborhood commercial use is subject to all these special development standards. So, okay, just wanted to confirm that. That's what I wrote in my notes because that's what I thought. Okay. Any questions from the commission for the applicant? If not.
Yeah, you mentioned something about a sound study that you guys did.
Yes, in your package there is a study that shows how far away, because there will be outdoor speakers. A lot of the public concern. We did have 2 community meetings, 2 or 3? 3 community meetings on this project. One of the concerns was that they intend to play 50s style music outside. I mean, this is a 50s style diner. And there was lots of concern that we were going to have, loud booming music that could be heard across the street into the homes. So we did a sound study that's included in your package. It shows that at no point does the sound ever actually even reach the homes. And the sound ordinance actually requires not only that it reach the home, but it could be heard inside the home for it to actually be a violation of the code. So there's no way that we will be violating the sound code based upon that study.
Is this a sister project to some others that are in other locations?
Yes, it is. There's one in Orange Beach and there's one in Pigeon Forge. I'm sorry, Gulf Shores, not Orange Beach.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's basically the same building design.
It's slightly, if you want to know, do you know the differences, Levi? Would you like to hear the differences? Because they did make some concessions based on the community meetings. Unfortunately, the biggest request was that we not do a diner, and that just couldn't work. But Levi can talk to you about the differences if you'd like. Okay.
It's Levi Wiegand from DAG Architects. My last name is Wiegand, and I can thank my parents for that. Yep. All right. So as we just heard, the Sunliner Diner, there are 2 other versions. One of them's in Gulf Shores, and the other one's in Pigeon Forge. The one in Gulf Shores is roughly the same size as this diner in terms of square footage, but it is on a main street, is painted red, and it's been around for, I think, about 6 years now, is sort of there. It's very family-centric, it's very successful. Every time we go to Gulf Shores, we go there and eat. That's not relevant. The Pigeon Forge one is actually right there in the main street there. And if you've ever been to Pigeon Forge or Branson, that community is very bright, very loud. And so that one actually is taller. It's something like 15,000 square feet. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's larger. They have a massive sign, and there's actually encouragement to make it brighter. And so they have extra neon and a handful of other things that go into that. Again, it's about what the street is and the context. So at our community meetings, one of the concerns was, we don't want to have that much loud, that much red, that much neon on 30A. And so the owner actually made a concession, and we've changed it to be an aqua and white scheme instead of the red. Those colors are all in concordance with the Munsell color book, which if it was on Scenic 98, it would have to be those. So that's how we picked the color palette. And so it's his 30A diner. It's also smaller significantly than that Pigeon Forge one. The fins are not as tall. And instead of using a red neon on the outside, we're using a light blue. And so it's not neon, it's actually a flex LED. That's important to note. And so anyway, that's the look of it.
Yeah.
I have some photos. They should be in your packet. But any other questions for me?
Yeah, both of the locations, existing locations that you mentioned, are in very high traffic tourist areas. Something like this would be fit in maybe down in Destin next to Fuddfuckers. I'm not too sure that this is compatible with the neighborhood that we're looking at. How did the owner choose this location of all things?
So he has been a visitor, an owner, and part of the 38 community for a long time, so he knows it. The second part is when you think about every scenic highway in the U.S., what's part of that? A diner. And so when he was looking at his brands that he operates, what fits and what's missing on a scenic highway was the diner. And so this is, you can say all the rest of this, but he's also, looking at the market, which is you have a lot of rentals. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have a family-centric place. You have the opportunity for, how many breakfast places are there? Those types of things. It adds another option on 30A for that. So, don't know if...
One of the comments, I wasn't knowledgeable about this myself, but someone said this had been rejected on 98.
Yep.
Is that true? Okay, so that's false.
We have not proposed this ever on any other parcel here in the Walton County area or any of those things. One of the comments that was given in the previous meeting was that Scenic 98 has a more stringent code than Scenic 30A. And so the competition or the statement was made that it would not have been approved on Scenic 98. Why is it approved on Scenic 30A? 98, correct. You're correct. Scenic 98 was
okay.
Talking about. The point being, though, that everything that we've done does comply with Scenic 98. That's the land development code that we're working on, and that's what we put together.
Now separately, before it was mentioned, how many bicycle places? I'm just, because it seemed like I had a memory of a different number.
David, can you answer the bicycle?
Because I thought you just said 8 in the earlier presentation. I thought it said 40 in the thing, which it is 8. Oh, 8. Okay. In the document, I thought we had 40 because I wrote that down thinking that's a heck of a lot of bicycles. Okay. Thank you.
Well, one other thing on this area on 30A, you're right at a curve, right? And people are gonna be coming around that curve, quite frequently. And I just wonder how your traffic flow is gonna work, turning in and turning out of the restaurant from a safety standpoint.
Can I take that?
First, this is Stephen again for the record. First, I would just point out that there's already a 20,000 square foot shopping center approved on this lot. So that concern would have been taken into account back in 2021 when the development order, the phased development order was approved, some master plan development order of sorts. But that said, there are always concerns about traffic. Yeah. Always, and there's always concerns about safety. My firm's 30A office is directly across the road from this development. Very familiar with that curve, and you've just got to be careful like anybody else. I mean, and I hate to be that blunt about it, but that really is the case. Pulling out, you just make sure you're looking both ways, look out for bicyclists. And
Does not the neighborhood have a gate, though?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Not the neighborhood that's adjacent to this have a gate?
They do have a gate, that's right.
Okay, now how is that going to impact the traffic when there's a gate into the neighborhood that shares the entrance off of 30A?
Well, assuming the gate's working properly, then there's no problem at all. Yeah. But, again, things happen and the gate may break at some point. And if it does happen, then you just have to deal with it. Unfortunately, we do have the ability to right turn into our property before you get to the gate. So it's not like it would, let me put it a different way. If the gate's not working, the residents are going to have the same problem and backing up into 30A as well.
Right, but they won't have 200 cars.
Well, you won't have 200 cars at this restaurant either.
Allegedly.
Thank you. Question about traffic is that I know that in the mobility plan scheme of things, you all have put out information that says that we can't deny projects based on traffic if the developer pays a mobility fee.
That's correct.
In this case, there wasn't a mobility fee paid, was proportionate fair share.
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, then, are we allowed to deny it based on traffic legally?
I would say no, because the proportionate fair share has already been paid. These trips are already vested.
Well, okay. But, that's what the law says, right? Is that if the fees have been paid, then you can't deny it. If it's mobility fee, there's no such requirement for proportionate fair share.
No, what I'm saying is because the proportionate fair share has already been paid.
I understand what you're saying.
Then the trips are already vested.
Okay.
Did you want to add something, David?
I was going to add, I'm David Smith with Interlight Engineering. Is the gate is at this location for the 31 homes? The gate is at this location here.
I'm super familiar.
This is the approved master plan, and this would be the phase 1, which would be 31 single-family residential homes. This is phase 2, which is what we're talking about this evening. So the gate is in this location and serves 31 homes.
I'm aware.
Right.
I live right down the road.
And to Stephen's point as well, the location and the curve has been obviously discussed thoroughly by us, by Public Works, and I was involved in the original submittal, so it was discussed at the very beginning back in 2020. And the location, we've lined it up with the road on the other opposite side to try to be as safe as possible. The reason for the curve is because of the coastal dune lake, which we want to obviously protect our environmentally sensitive areas. And so we have to have the curve to go around the lake. So we've located it in the safest location we can. And we lined it up with the adjacent driveway across the street.
Okay.
I had one other question on hours of operation. Is it going to be a 7-day-a-week operation? And, it's going to be open at 6 a.m., close at midnight? Do you know?
Okay, so it's variable. The standard is 7 in the morning to 9 p.m., but during season that could change depending on demand.
Depending on what?
Demand.
Oh, demand, okay.
So you could stay open later, you mean, is what?
Right, but I mean, at some point, you're subject to the noise ordinance and that sort of thing too, because after 10 o'clock, things change. Anything else?
The small neighborhood, I believe the zoning requirements for this are that it serves the neighborhood, right?
That's correct.
Okay, but this being the type of, well, it's not exactly an old-fashioned diner. Seems like it's trying to be a draw for a much larger area rather than serving that community.
Well, it's certainly not designed to only be there for the 31 homes that is part of the subdivision
Yeah.
for. I mean, that you would never have any commercial. That would never happen. Obviously, it's the small neighborhood zoning district is really designed to create pedestrian-friendly, walkable communities, and in order to do that, besides just having houses, there must also be commercial uses. And this is one of the commercial uses that is allowed.
So this is supposed to be walkable?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's absolutely walkable. How is it not walkable? I would have to, I don't understand
Well, by your definition, as I'm interpreting it, a mall would be walkable to everyone who lives adjacent to it. But I've tried to walk from across parking lots to malls, and it's quite a walk. Walking to this would be quite a walk from most places.
Well, we have the multi-use path. You've got the subdivision that's directly across the road. You've got the 31 that is right there. And we're also talking about bicycles. We're talking about the multi-use path.
Yeah.
So it's definitely right on what the small neighborhood is designed to do.
I think the intent of the small neighborhood and development was to have a smaller restaurants, smaller little retail stores, just like what they have right across the street. That's what the small
Create a
neighborhood.
community.
Correct. Yes. And that's what the intent was for this project.
And which is what was approved.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the
Yes,
applicant? Okay,
yes.
go ahead.
The proportionate fair share amount that was paid on this project?
Yes, sir.
$732,000.
That's correct.
You take a look at this report from Dewberry. This is the one that documents the basis for that proportionate fair share.
Familiar with it?
Okay, does that look right?
Yes.
Okay, and that was based on this traffic analysis?
Should be. I don't know if this. I can't swear that this is the one that was actually approved. We could let David look at it because this was his project back in the day. But let's go ahead and field your question, figure out where we're going.
Well,
with this.
there's an inconsistency that, according to the traffic report, the 20,000 square foot facility was going to generate 109 trips.
Mm-hmm.
This staff report for this project said it was 132. That's a big difference, so I haven't been able to find out why there's a discrepancy there.
You're saying the staff report for the diner says that there's 132
Correct.
trips?
It says it was 132 for the 20,000 square foot shopping center.
I know that the 20,000 square foot shopping center was in the original development order.
Correct.
Traffic analysis, sorry. And the proportionate fair share was paid based on the number of trips at that time.
Correct.
So, which a shopping center, 20,000 square feet generates substantially more trips than a 10,000 square foot diner.
I'll take a look at the traffic report because it says 109.
Well, what we submitted was a traffic letter saying that we're drawing down from the approved 20,000 square foot shopping center.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the basis for that was 109 trips.
But the diner generates way less than 100 trips.
Well, I'm not arguing with that. I'm saying what's in the traffic report says 109. What you got
Diner generates
in your
less than
staff
both of what
report
you're saying, you know?
says it's 132.
Right.
there's a discrepancy.
I can't speak to that, but I can tell you the diner generates less than both.
Okay, well, I can only go on the data that I've got here.
Right.
So the argument that the 10,000 square foot diner generates less traffic, according to the data, is not true.
I think you read, I don't even know where you're reading from, to be honest, but you read 132.
Here's the traffic analysis. And here's the Dewberry report that's consistent with the traffic analysis.
Where are you seeing 132?
In the staff report.
But where in the staff report?
Page 9 of 249.
Okay,
Sorry,
Bob's got it.
6 of 11.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Stricker, or Madam Chair, what you're reading is, if I can read what our engineer is saying, she's saying that initially approved the Blue Water Landing development plan for 31 single-family lots and 20,000 square feet of shopping center space with the associated infrastructure at the proposed project site. The applicant is now requesting approval to construct 1,086 square feet of restaurant in place of initially approved 20,000 square feet shopping center. The initially approved 20,000 square feet shopping center would have generated 132 PM peak hour trips, and the proposed 10,086 square foot restaurant will generate 127 square feet.
I think what's happening is back in 2020, when the development order was done, ITE equations were one thing.
Yes.
ITE equations now, they have a new addition,
There's
are different.
Yeah, there's been a new
And
addition.
it's probably gone up. That equation has gone up to a result of 132 instead of 109.
But this is the current engineering review from the current plan.
We don't have a current review, do we?
Yes, sir, everything is public, and in your staff report is all current.
Okay.
144 you spoke to.
144 is total.
That includes the homes. The
Correct.
single-family homes. The shopping center is 109
109, right.
in this analysis.
And that's consistent with what the proportionate fair share was based on.
So
Right.
We agree.
It was based on that traffic analysis. So it was 109, but you're saying that 127 is less than what the original project was based on.
Is that Andrea's review that you're reading from? Yes. Because I would have to go back. Thank you. Because Andrea doesn't take into consideration pass-by trips, doesn't take into consideration internal capture. I know, but she's just doing a blanket calculation here, which the traffic analysis will take into account.
Okay, now, I don't see the traffic analysis in our packet.
There is no traffic analysis in your packet because the 10,000 square foot shopping center, even by Andrea's calculations, produces less trips.
I'm sorry, who's Andrea?
She is the engineer that reviewed this for the county.
Okay.
For Walton County.
For Walton County?
Produces less trips than what the 20,000 square foot shopping center produced. But that's what it says. So therefore, there was no reason to do a traffic analysis because we're actually asking for something less than what's already been approved and paid for.
What's vested is 109 trips.
Even based on her calculation, she says 127 trips. She said the original application will generate 132 trips.
For the shopping center.
And that takes into account no pass-by, no internal capture. And then she says that the restaurant will generate 127, again, that takes into account no pass-by and no internal capture. That is not, I know you understand what I'm talking, that's not
The net reduction.
correct.
By
And to
today's
Stephen's
numbers.
point, if you do no pass-by, no internal capture, or you do it, it's less either way.
Mm-hmm.
So the restaurant's less either way.
Yes.
You got to do them the same way, though. You can't pick and choose from one side and the other.
Exactly. So you did a proportionate fair share calculation in 2021
132.
based on 132, which is of which 109 was for the shopping center. So don't you owe more money now?
Not, because you take into account the pass by and the internal capture when you're doing an actual analysis. You just did a straight rate in the staff report. And you either have to do it one way or the other.
So you're comparing apples and oranges.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
He's saying.
I'm
they're
saying
doing
you're
apples.
comparing apples and oranges,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Yeah, he's saying it's apples and apples.
Not my fault because I don't have the data.
True. Okay.
And I'll conclude with it. Either way you do it, it's less.
And I'll also say what is vested is the trips for the project. It doesn't, your vesting of trips doesn't change just because, and it's the number of trips that the project produces regardless is vested. It's not, it doesn't change just because whenever you got your development order, ITE codes were one thing, and then you build the project 2 years or 3 or 4 years later, and ITE code shows something else. You're not going to go back and owe extra money.
So according to the traffic report that was done in 2021, it was based on FDOT data from 2009. Is there a reason for that?
Maybe reading from the staff reviewers' comments with some of the data in the CMS may have been referencing some of the old data.
No, the traffic report that I gave you. It's based on 2009 traffic data.
It says we used the 10th edition of ITE, and then we pull the maximum allowable service volumes in the background trip from, this is the county's concurrency management system that you're reading from. So Walton County's concurrency management system that we were reviewed against has 2009 data in their concurrency management system.
Okay, so I guess my question is, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but how do you account for the increase in base level traffic when you're comparing against what was done in 2021?
We look at what we generate.
Yeah, you got to turn it so it's facing you.
We look at what we generate, and then we look at the impact to the roadway. We generate the same. Actually, we generate less because we're a 10,000 square foot restaurant, and we generated more when we were a 20,000 square foot shopping center. So we look at generation rates, and then the county's CMS, when proportionate fair share, assumed a theoretical improvement to come up with a cost per trip to your impact to that roadway. So it's irregardless of the amount of traffic, it's a cost per trip based upon our impact to the roadway, which is substantially less with the restaurant. So I think the point Stephen was making is when D.R. Horton paid the proportionate fair share for 20,000 square feet of shopping center, they paid more than what's actually due with the restaurant today.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. I think these are yours, Mr. Trigger, aren't they?
Yes.
You can keep them if you want them.
I probably have.
Is there anything else?
Anything else for the applicant at this time? All right. Now we'll open it up to public comment. I'm going to make note that I have had one person ask me for extra time, so I will allow up to 5 minutes for them. Otherwise, we're going to limit comments to 3 minutes per person. That being said, who would like to address the podium? Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone, state your name, and spell your last name.
Thank you. Michael Mather, M-A-T-H-E-R, the resident in Blue Water Landing, 68 Seaboard Lane. First of all, I'd like to say that I think anybody who lives in the area knows that the other shopping centers in that area do not cause as much traffic as this proposed restaurant is going to cause. 250 seats, they have 71 parking spots. Of those 71 parking spots, I'd like to know how many will be taken up by their staff, waiters, cooks, other people that are there. That'd take us down to about 50 maybe spots you've got, which would put us at about almost 5 people per car coming in there if the restaurant is fully used. I don't believe that they're going to be able to park just in their parking lot, which will put them in our neighborhood parking and on the street in 30A, just as Mimo's does down the street. However, it's a lot more dangerous on the curve. I'd like to address some of the things that they said about neighborhood involvement, lighting studies, sound studies. They talk about the fact that they had notified people. They did not notify anybody in our neighborhood of the lighting study. We weren't invited to the neighborhood meetings that they had, where they discuss these things and discuss color. If we change the color, it'll be okay. That's not true. It's not okay with our neighborhood just because they go teal instead of red. And none of us, not one person in our neighborhood was invited to any of those meetings. They will tell you that it was up to Barbara Morano to invite us to those meetings. She's just another person who lives in the neighborhood who is kind of a community organizer. They could have put a note on our mailbox. They could have mailed us a letter. They could have done anything. They did none of it, so none of us were involved with that. Traffic on that curve, as it was discussed. Traffic is very difficult on that curve. I sat out at our exit on 30A at night where I would have to be behind the white line, and that way not impeding the bicycle way, in which e-bikes go 25 miles an hour, by the way. And it's 4.2 seconds by the time you see headlights at night until that car is directly in front of you. That's not enough time to check both directions and check both directions on that pathway for bicycles going 25 miles an hour. Got a pretty good cross-check. I was an Air Force aviator for 27 years. I know what it takes to be able to look and see these things. It's not enough time. I'd also like to state that the hours, even though they say now are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., may go longer, you also have to think about the fact it's really 6 a.m. till 10 or 11 p.m. because you're going to have the workers coming in and out of there. There's going to be action during those times, not just during the hours they're open. During those hours is when they're going to have music broadcast outside, which I do not believe you won't hear. We can hear the music all the way from Local Catch on Wednesday and Sunday nights when they play music there. The lighting study, they say it didn't bother anybody, but then at the end of the last meeting, they said that, well, they were only considering the outlying neighborhoods, not our neighborhood. I saw the light from my house, which is 6 houses down on the street, and walked down there and asked them, hey, what are you doing with this man lift with a light up there? They said, oh, we're doing a lighting study. I said, well, I saw it from my house. Never made it into their study, though. The fact they said it could not be seen from where it would be a nuisance to anybody. Sorry, I'm going through my notes here and trying to be as quick as I can. The other thing I want to talk about is we're currently trying to figure out the area right behind the Sunliner Diner is our property also, and it was designed to put a pool in. D.R. Horton was going to put a pool in there, but when they cut back the number of homes, they didn't find it was fiscally good for them to put a pool in there. We as a neighborhood are planning on putting a pool back there. This parking lot's going to surround this pool. I know they say there's going to be landscaping there, but it's not going to be enough to really shield us. And the music that they're going to play from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. outside is not going to be something we're going to want to sit at the pool and listen to. I don't know, Chantilly Lace is a great song, not my favorite. And the main thing is, in the beginning of this meeting, you said a prayer and said, let us be good stewards of our property. I thought that was really touching. This diner is in no way being a good steward towards this property. It doesn't look like it fits in with 30A. The traffic is going to be dangerous. They say it's going to be a pedestrian kind of place. The amount of traffic, and Brad Webster will show you some pictures and details, the amount of traffic is make it impossible for people, as they said, have your kid walk or ride his bicycle down there to get a milkshake. They also serve alcohol, which makes it a little bit more dangerous also. It's not that kind of place because it's going to cause so much traffic. And we're not even talking about delivery trucks at this point. And we're responsible for the maintenance of that road there. those spots were told that we're going to be overflow parking for our neighborhood. They're going to be filled with diner patrons. It's not going to be available for our neighborhood. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. I'll try not to go much over my 3 minutes. Obviously, I'm passionate about this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Lady in the pink.
Hello, my name is Yulia Hamilton, Hamilton, just like your, kitchen appliances or watches or the musical actually as well. I'm at 92 Seaboard, so I'm a neighbor with the previous speaker. And I am not fortunate enough to be a full-time resident yet, but I'm a desperate wannabe. Well, I thought I was because I bought this wonderful house in a very quiet neighborhood that was absolutely perfect. I have multiple properties in the area, but this was going to be my retirement home, and you will not catch me dead in Pigeon Forge. So I would like to, there will be a lot of things brought up, right? And I very much appreciate some of the comments that have already been raised. I would like to focus on two things today. So I work for a multinational oil and gas, energy, whatever, corporation, Shell. We have 100,000 people across the world, and I help them make decisions. I don't make decisions. I help them make decisions from technical and safety and environmental point of view. So that's exactly what I want to talk about. Technical, safety specifically. So there's a lot going on, a lot of conversation going on about traffic. I don't think it's traffic. I think it's safety of your child crossing the street on the bike, of the pedestrian getting hit by a car, etc. You've seen the curve. This is not the curve now, but you've seen how bad the curve is, right? You know that they cannot put another axis to it. So they have to use the axis that we have. Now, we have 31 houses. Multiply that by, say, 2 cars, average American household, right? Multiply that by, well, let's make it average 2 trips a day, right? That's 240 trips just by our neighborhood. Kristen here brought up the gate question. The gate is on the left. So everybody who comes in needs to come to the left, and everybody who comes out of the diner is going to go this way. So it's a complete cross flow of traffic, right? So let's not ignore that, because our driveway, the way it was designed for our neighborhood, not for extra, super heavy traffic. And like I said, for me, it's not traffic, it's safety. This is what I do for my company, right? If it's not safe to do, and if it's not good for the environment, we don't even start. Doesn't matter how much money we make, doesn't matter what we have to develop, et cetera, et cetera. So my second point on top of safety is environment. So I will read you just 2 sentences. I had my son just now write down to, in the low point by the Draper Lake, there's a sign, and it says, Coastal Dune Lakes of Walton County. South Walton is home to 15 rare coastal dune lakes. These naturally occurring bodies of water are a combination of freshwater and saltwater, all that, offering a unique habitat that's found only in a handful of places around the world, such as New Zealand, Madagascar, Australia, and the Pacific Northwest, and Florida. Walton County. So, all of the studies of light, music, and please, sound carries a lot better across the water, across the lake, right? So it's not necessarily, can I hear it from this house to this house? Let's look at the physics, okay? I'm an engineer, I'm sorry. Sound carries across water, yes, I'm almost done. Okay. Couple maybe other things. you can imagine what it's going to do to our property values. Having a huge, loud thing next to us. I mean, this is not what we bought into. And then, yeah, any other comparisons, such as, you know, they brought up Shungali, they brought up Old Florida. I've owned in different places. All of those are commercial. None of those are small neighborhoods, right? Yeah, signage, music, lighting. I think Brad's going to talk about all of this. And that corner, the white corner that you see below the black driveway, is not necessarily, I mean, it could be a pool area, but it's a recreational area for our neighborhood. Recreational. We can decide what to do with it, and having parking lot in the back of it is not helpful at all. Questions?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
I'll take this gentleman in the green shirt.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Bailey, and I'm building a home on Coquina Place, which is on Draper Lake. I'm 4 weeks away from moving into my new home. We've been working with the planning department for 5 years to get our home built. 5 years. We've had to build underground pools to catch the water so we don't contaminate the coastal dune lake. We've had to change the color of our shutter. 5 years, and then I hear about this, and I'll be honest with you, my first thought was, this is not a serious proposal. This is not a serious application. Whoever in the planning department first saw this application should have went, no, not near our coastal dune lakes, not on scenic 30A. This one to me, I'm a business guy. I've done a lot of deals. This kind of reeks of some backroom deal that was done. And I want to say thank you to you guys that voted on this last case that came up. You said this is not really our job, but you people don't leave your conscience at home. You're here to represent the citizens of Walton County, and thank you for voting the way you did. You voted your conscience. And I'll say again, like someone said before, Ms. Jacobs, your prayer touched me, and I don't believe you were just saying words. I think you were very serious. That this committee, you're the guardians of Walton County. And what is more special in Walton County than our coastal dune lakes and scenic 30A? This has no, I don't care. You can dress a pig up and paint it. It's still a pig. This would look great on the Strip in Vegas. Disney World, not on scenic 30A. That's what I'm saying. This is not even a serious application. And the reason we built on the coastal dune lake is you sit there at night, even though my home's not quite finished, I can sit on my porch. I hear the frogs and the crickets. But water carries sound. I can hear people talking up on 30A, talking. And to say they did a sound study that you won't have the music carrying across the water, I challenge you on that. It will. I'm not going to rehash the safety, but I did the same thing. I drove up there the other day and sat in the parking lot trying to come out. You've got bicycles that are crossing with kids. And I'm going to tell you who's going to be driving to this place if it's built. Will be teenagers driving golf carts illegally, turning in on 2 wheels. It is going to be a disaster. Somebody's going to get killed. And you guys know what I'm saying. When I pull out of Coquina Place, I've almost hit people running and jogging. And then by the time they get clear, you go, oh, here's a golf cart holding up 20 cars. I can go this way. Well, by the time that's clear, now you got more cars and more joggers. You add the people that are going to be there, it's going to be a disaster. This is not a serious application, and I would ask that you guys please do the right thing and say denied. Thank you.
I just would be remiss if I didn't say something. There is a common theme in many public comments that seem to insinuate that my department and my folks are on the take somehow. There's no backdoor deals in the planning department. There's no one doing anything nefarious in the department, okay? The property owner has a right to apply. He applied. We have the responsibility and the requirement legally to take it through the process. That's where we're at. Okay? Thank you.
And I appreciate you taking the due diligence to move it from a minor to a major. I appreciate that. Thank you, Stephen. The gentleman in the pink shirt.
Hello, I'm Jim Loznica. It's Loznicka. I'm here representing Cowgirl Hospitality Group. We're operating business on 30A for over 20 years. Our primary location is in Blue Mountain Beach. We're approximately a half mile down the road from the proposed Sunliner Diner. We live here in Draper Lake and these surrounding communities. We know it and we do care what happens to Scenic 30A. But we're here because this restaurant is not what we call a neighborhood restaurant. It's a major commercial operation, and while it may meet the code which has been presented before you, it does violate the intent and the spirit of the small neighborhood zoning, which you have already debated here this evening. That zoning was meant to support small-scale businesses integrated into walkable communities, and we feel that this project is not small, nor is it walkable. To put this restaurant in perspective, it would be the size of 4 of our current Cowgirl kitchens lined up, or 2 Stinkies lined up, or 2 Mimos lined up. Now, our Blue Maple restaurant, speaking from expertise here, we had a 4,200 square foot restaurant, and we employed 80 staff members at its peak of operations. We met the county parking code every night, every single day. We still had issues with guests spilling out onto 30A, creating traffic issues and safety issues that are out of our control. Again, that was 4,200 square foot of a restaurant. We're talking about a 10,000 square foot restaurant, which in our opinion would probably have to have 150 in staffing or at least 300 vehicles. And that question is being bagged here. Where will all the parking for those vehicles go, and where will that staff go? The staff is not coming from here. Obviously, they're coming from other locations, and they will need vehicles. And as we've heard already, staffing is not really the most urgent issue. The issue here is going to be safety, with people biking, walking, and crossing 30A without the protections of sidewalks or crosswalks. A crosswalk in that area has already been denied by the county in previous sessions. And it is dangerous. We have accidents. We have them daily. We had a fatality not too long ago around the curb up there by McTie's. Now you can imagine hundreds of more vehicles coming daily, vendors and delivery trucks and sightseers all on that curve, and this whole operation cannot function without vehicular traffic. It's also about the scale and the character, and it's about precedent, and we feel that dropping a project of this magnitude on the south side of 30A next to one of our dune lakes is not responsible planning. So today we're asking to look beyond the technicalities of the zoning code and consider the real-world impact of this decision, and we deny you, as you did before, to deny this proposal in its current form. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kim Bowie. I'm in Blue Water Landing.
Spell your last name for her.
B-U-I. I'm in lot 3. I received a letter from the engineer within the 300 feet. I'm in that 300 feet. I'm a full-time resident of Blue Water Landing. This highly impacts in where I'm located because of the noise, the safety. I'm going to go and just press the safety. I'm a mother with 2 young daughters. They're just starting to drive. When we pull out of that entrance, there's the pedestrian walk, the bicycle. You have to inch slowly and look to the west. That's where that dangerous curve is. And then, just like many people have presented tonight, you look there and then you have to keep looking back and forth. You don't know when an e-bike is going to go 25 miles down the road. And they do. And at night, it's not well lit. You can't see anybody. These e-bikes don't even have the lights on their bikes. These are kids, teenagers. It is very, very stressful because I also saw an accident just 2 days ago. There were 3 cars. It was just a mess over there. And it's just, for a safety issue, that's the main thing for me as a mom. And for anybody walking over there, it's just, I don't know how to stress it enough. I mean, it's great that this diner wants to go there. Fine. The conformity after that, it nowhere fits into our small neighborhood area. And you can see that going up and down 30A. There's nothing that's well lit like that, that is going to be teal or aluminum. This belongs, like the previous gentleman said, in Vegas or Pigeon Forge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tess Healy, Healy. I am the president of Old Florida Beach Homeowners Association. We are the Gulf facing. It's a rectangular lot, 66 lots, Gulf facing and Draper Lake outflow on the eastern edge. So my comments were, one, that concerns me the precedent that's happening here in terms of the conflict with existing Blue Water Landing homeowners and the other half of their HOA, which is going to be this diner. And so just to start out this way to me seems crazy. You're going to it's just fraught with tension. I see that just as just a grave concern. Because of where we sit, and we are not Gulf front, but when there is music at Local Catch, I hear it. And so now I'm going to hear it for 10 more hours every day, not just when Local Catch has outdoor music playing. The county advertises these beach neighborhoods as serene and scenic, and Santa Rosa Beach in particular having private island vibes. I would not put the Sunliner diner on my private island, and I don't think any of you would want it in your side yard either. My only other comment was in the last meeting, we talked a lot about the signage because there's going to have a car there that helps to advertise the location. And they described the car as like a statue or water feature. And I'm not sure that if you had a car on your front lawn, anyone else in your neighborhood would call it a water feature. Thank you.
This lady in the back.
Thank you all for your time and attention. I'm Lee Moore, Leigh-Moore, and I'm representing Scenic Walton tonight. We are a 501c3 in Walton County, and we pursue beautification and safety improvements and issues in the county. So you can see why we're here after hearing all these comments. So I will try to be really quick. I do think that compatibility matters. And as people have said previously tonight, you can examine to the letter of what it exactly says in the comp plan and the land development code. But you, ma'am, made a great point the first time, I think, tonight that was made, is that the intent of the code also matters. And just the words small neighborhood zoning are important. And I think some of the code does actually speak to what is good and compatible in that area and what is not. There's a reason that some of the other larger restaurants on 30A are in a village mixed use zoning, and this is not village mixed use. And so at Scenic Walton, we focus on a lot of things that apply here: architecture, lighting, signage. And I'm the one that made the comment, by the way, at the TRC meeting. This would not pass on 98 the way it is right now, primarily because of lighting and signage. And it's so interesting. I've been to every community meeting about this project. I've listened, I've participated. The suggestion for the color change came from us. And appreciate the color change, but it's just not enough. But I think if this owner had come in with a smaller scale is that word, scaled down diner that was done in like an old mid-century modern kind of a feel with minimal, subtle signage, no music outside. Please, please consider not doing that music. This is an outdoor community. The attorney mentioned that you can't hear the sound inside the homes. This is Florida. People are not staying inside their homes that live here or visit here. They want to be outside, sitting on the porch, sitting at the pool, sitting wherever, and they've paid a lot of money for those porches and pools. And even if they hadn't paid a lot of money, does that really matter? Even if they'd paid a little money, their quality of life matters. From 7 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. every day, to have that music playing, and every time they step out any door of their home, they can hear it. Just don't do it. I'm talking not to you right now, but you hear me. I'm talking to the folks behind me. I just don't understand the insistence on doing it the way they want to do it. If small neighborhood establishments are supposed to serve the neighborhood, then why would you want to come in when the vast majority of the neighborhood, and I mean surrounding, not just Blue Water Landing, or Blue Water, is it Landing? Not just Blue Water, but the whole surrounding neighborhood is against you? You're not serving the neighborhood right out of the gate before you even get out of the gate. And if you'd be willing to make some changes, some substantial changes beyond just color and some landscaping, then I think it would probably have been a whole lot different procedure and experience and would already be done by now. So that's what I encourage you to look at as the commission. Thank you for everything you do. This kind of stuff does matter. And if you drive down a street in an area that used to be cool and funky and awesome and laid back and subdued, that didn't have good codes and good people making decisions, and the character changed because a bunch of stuff came in that didn't fit, then you really see how much fit and character and compatibility does matter. And we just don't, 30A is a special place. So let's keep it that way. And I'm gonna say, oh no, I'm out of time. Let me say one last thing. I just want to step back, forget Scenic Walton, forget property owners, forget community activists, forget you all, just as human beings for a minute. And also as the developer, let's just take off the costumes and just be human beings for a minute. This does not have to be this way. And you can hire attorneys and planners and all of that. But if you just work with the community, I guarantee you every time, and I've worked for a developer, every single time you'll end up with something that works better for the community and for you as the property owner, building owner, business owner, developer, whatever you are. So those are just my thoughts and my words. I just really think, and this will probably go further, and the developer sounds like they're going to dig in and take it all the way to the nth degree. But if we could just step back and work together, I think something good could come out of this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to remind everybody we have a 3-minute time limit. So when I tell you 3 minutes, I'm going to cut you off.
Thank you. My name is Brad Webster. I am a full-time resident of Blue Water Landing. I specifically want to talk to the character, the scale, and the access for this proposed development. I want to just kind of go back. Could you go to slide number 2?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. That's okay. I'm obviously not going to read through this whole code, but I do want to bring up just a few points in there that I highlighted. The Walton Valley Development Code says to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents. It doesn't say the welfare of the businesses. It says the residents. It also says that you should have adequate infrastructure and that you enhance the appeal of the entire county. If you drill down into the small neighborhood, of which we are zoned, a small neighborhood, that is Blue Water Landing on the south side of 30A, Ventana Dunes, the Village Shops, and the Village on the north side of 30A. That small neighborhood code talks about promoting the future viability of the neighborhood, encourage walking, biking, friendly design, sufficient infrastructure again. It talks about pedestrian in scale, and it should be pedestrian rather than vehicular access. So we really did some digging into that pedestrian in scale. What does that mean? And we couldn't find it anywhere in the Walton County Land Development Code that it defined it clearly. So we went to other resources. We went to the internet. You can see down at the bottom of the slide, one of them was the Florida Green Book, the EPA, and we even looked at new technology with AI with Grok. And if you look at those, it all says the same thing. Safe, well-marked pedestrian crossings are essential. Walking is more pleasant. If you go to Grok, it talks about frequent crosswalks, essential amenities like shops, cafes, and parks, multiple use types of things. So just kind of summarizing those last two slides, what we got out of pedestrian and scale is that it's compact in design, it serves the neighborhood with a mixture of services. That's what we come from it. So we don't believe pedestrian scale is a Sunliner diner. A 10,000 square foot facility with 200 plus seats in it, 71 parking spots is not pedestrian in scale. Just the diner size, the tourist focus aligns more with the regional uses and clashes with kind of the mixed use design to serve the local residents. The tourist oriented nature is going to draw more traffic. That's been talked about already. There's going to be cars coming from all over the place. That's going to further disrupt the pedestrian flow on that sidewalk. The lights, the noise, the music from 7 to 10, the residents up front, they're going to deal with this nonstop. And then the sharp blind curve, that's been talked about a lot too. And we believe this is clearly the biggest restaurant in a small neighborhood zone on 30A. We brought that up in other technical review meetings. We got challenged on it immediately with Shunk Gully and Old Florida Fish House, that they were bigger, but they're not in a small neighborhood. And we want to make sure that's clearly understood. This slide here, one of the things we have been talking about all along, in a lot of the technical review meetings previously, they kept putting up pictures that didn't even show the homes in it. So there's a lot of perception out there that there's nobody there. The reality is on the right. And this diner is going to be within 100 to 150 feet of a lot of these homes, just right across that jetty road. The orientation of it, next slide, please. You're good. The orientation of it is going to be a maximum impact to Blue Water Landing. Again, the facing of this, the lights, the overhead signs that's on the roof, those types of things are facing our homes. And then you stop and think about every car that comes out of this access road. The first 2 or 3 homes, every car at night, the headlights are going to be shining right in their front doors, their side windows, their back porches. The light study was referred to earlier by another resident. And I just want to bring up a quote from Mr. Smith, the project engineer, when we challenged this at the last meeting. He told us that the lighting study was done for the residents across the Dune Lake. Wasn't done for Blue Water Landing. We weren't even considered. And we're the ones right there. How does that make any sense at all? And why are the people across the Dune Lake any more important than us right next door? The sound impact and the 50s music, that's been talked about a lot. Again, from 7 to 10 every day. The initial sound study that we saw, they only showed that study was done at one of the entrances. It's our understanding they've got multiple entrances. And if you look at the picture on the left, that amenity area, the Blue Water Landing amenity area, the sound clearly goes into that amenity area and will most likely travel across that 22, 23 foot parking lot there for the first few homes. Now, the next slide, here's the character. I would challenge you to find anything on 30A that looks like that. Decorative stainless steel and aluminum. Pictures on the right is the character of the community and the village shops across the street. Doesn't look like it fits to me anywhere on 38 or our neighborhood. The road infrastructure, we've heard a little bit about their other locations. If you'll notice on this slide, they're on busy 4-lane roads, big, massive intersections. And I know it's going to be hard to see, but look at the parking lots and the number of cars in there. Now that you've kind of got that picture in your mind, take that times 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know all the formulas and all that on your traffic studies or the peak hours or anything that you were discussing earlier. 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're going to have that coming in there. Our access road to get there, I've personally gone out there and measured it from the white boundary line on 30A to the entrance off of Jetty Road where they would go in. It's 151 feet. We don't have 4 lanes to deal with. We don't have heavy intersections. It will absolutely overwhelm our entrance. This slide here shows the entrance.
I love where you're going. I'm just going to try to
Speed it up.
Well, because you're 7 minutes into your 5
Okay,
minutes.
got
so.
it, got it, got it. Here's the reality. 151 feet off of 30A into that entrance where they would go. And the big key point here is, for us to get in our neighborhood, we have to get in the left-hand lane to enter the code or our RFID tag to be read, or a visitor to put in a code in there to call the residents. It's going to be a nightmare. Then I would ask you, there's one way in, one way out. Think about the delivery trucks. I'm not a truck driver, but I know it takes 30 to 50 extra feet to make a turn. You don't have it at that intersection for a semi to get in there. So what are we going to do with it? Are we going to block that parking lot, the 151 feet, with a delivery truck? Or are we going to put it out on the blind curve, further exacerbating the problems? Here's the visibility at the stoplight, or the stop sign. You can see it's very limited distance to the left, very limited distance that you can see to the right. And the other thing I want to bring up, because we keep talking about pedestrian and scale, I've measured it. The closest pedestrian crosswalk is 0.2 of a mile to the east and 0.6 of a mile, over a half a mile, to the west. How is that pedestrian friendly? It just doesn't fit. Then last slide here is, this is our 4th amendment to our CCRs. I understand the county does not enforce those. Totally get that. But what we do want to bring up is whoever goes onto this lot, whoever gets built here, is going to be restricted to this. And they also have a financial obligation to our HOA at the end of the day, at the end of the year, towards our annual budget. So that's important. So in conclusion, real quickly, I just want to say, we in Blue Water Landing do not believe this fits for character, scale, or access in any way, shape, or form. And we'd ask that you deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara. Okay. Oh, there's somebody else after you. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Barbara Morano. Brad just did a bang-up job, so I'm
Barbara,
not going...
can you tip that down just a little bit?
Sure.
There you go.
Okay. Barbara Morano. Brad just did a bang-up job. He's the president of Blue Water Landing. So I'm going to be very specific, because as far as what I'm going to ask you tonight and what I'm going to prove is that this development does not fit the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. So may I approach and bring you the...
Sure.
Okay. What I'm passing out to you is the Small Neighborhood Code, and we'll go through that in a few minutes. But also in your packet, you got hundreds of letters. I'd like to name the neighborhood associations, the board of directors who made a decision about this. Old Florida Beach, Draper Lake Coastal Village, Crescent Cay, Blue Water Landing, The Retreat, Highland Park, Ventana Dunes. Those communities have over 501 families. The villages in the Pines don't have an HOA, but they wrote you letters. We also did a petition of over 1,000 signatures, but the county says that's just one comment. Blue Water Mountain is a very special small community, but let's start with the code. So right there you have the code in front of you. We're going to talk about the code. There was once a popular TV station show named Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So let's pretend we ask a fifth grader to define the word small. They might tell you it's opposite large. They may do it with their hands. But in the Land Development Code, small means refers to projects limited in scope compared to larger projects. When we read 2.0218 right there, this district is intended, this is exactly what you were saying, but you have it here in black and white, for areas transitioning from fragmented developments to an area with higher density, mixed core, and will facilitate neighborhood continuity. Each small neighborhood should provide a mixture of uses to encourage economic diversity, sustainability within the area, promote future viability. What's future viability? That's basically quality of life of the neighborhood. And you heard the neighborhood speak to you that quality of life was going to be definitely going down if this was in. And encourage walking and bicycle-friendly design to conserve energy and reduce emissions. This is the small neighborhood code that this development does not fit in. Continuity, mixture of uses, it's just one use. Economic diversity, one restaurant. Future viability, which means live successfully, quality of life. I don't think so. The Sunliner Diner does not meet this code because it has a negative impact on the future viability of this neighborhood. 31 homes bought in at a price point of $1.5 million. Those homes were sold. They didn't buy into Pigeon Forge or Gulf Shores. They bought into 30A. This is a monumental change from what they thought was going to be a small neighborhood commercial center next to them. That's what they were told. This parcel is in their HOA. Yes, it is in their covenants to say what shouldn't be in there, but it mentions small stores in their covenants. Is this a bicycle-friendly design to conserve energy and reduce emissions? You heard it. It's absolutely no. The project went from minor to major because of three things, and Brad said it, and Stephen Schoen said it: access, scale, and character. This does not fit that. I'd like to show you a video. Cora, could you put the video on, please? I think it's time for a video. Can you activate it, Cora? Look here and look at this video. This shows you where they live. That shows you the one street that they have to go into for this huge diner on the right. Look at the cars. And you see the bicycles right there going across. Okay, thank you, Cora. So I want you to turn that code page that I just gave you and go to G2. And just look at that myself. When we were talking about this at the TRC, and then it was decided to go from major to minor, G2 was talked about as being the gray area. It is not gray area, it's black and white. Let's look at it. Small neighborhood project shall be pedestrian in scale and shall facilitate and encourage pedestrian use. The placement of residential and commercial land uses shall be such that pedestrian rather than vehicular access to commercial uses is facilitated and encouraged. This is why it went from major to minor to major. But it is not a gray area. You have the code in front of you that tells you this doesn't fit. Yes, we had 3 neighborhood meetings. Every one of those meetings we said it doesn't fit. But the developer says, don't worry about it. It's going to look like Las Vegas. What? The music, 7 to 10. Who do you think that's going to attract? All the teenagers in Seaside that can't be there after 8 o'clock. They're going to listen to those 50s music. This is an event center. People will come from Bay, Okaloosa, North Walton, and South Walton. It will be a successful, large restaurant. They want to see the ladies with the red lipstick and their costumes that'll look like they're out of a high school play. You're going to see a large 1950s car right sitting on 30A, which is a national scenic byway, by the way, as well as a scenic highway. And here we come in with something that looks like a spaceship. That parking lot you'll be hearing music, and that's exactly what the teenagers want. It doesn't fit. Cora, can you just pick up Pigeon Forge and Orange Beach? Which one we get first?
FYI, Barbara, you're 7 minutes into your 5 minutes, so.
Okay, well, this is huge.
I know, I get it.
All right, if you look at Gulf Shores, look where the Sunliner Diner is. And then you look where the deli ice cream is. That's where these folks who live in Blue Water are going to live, right by that Sunliner Diner. You see Souvenir City. You see a nature park. Look at all that. Where are the homes? There are no homes. You talk about roads. That's an arterial road. Huge traffic. And that building over here, that's part of his development. I think that's like a Alvin's Alley. All right, let's go to Pigeon Forge. In Pigeon Forge, you've got a wax museum. You even have a cemetery. I mean, God rest them, let them rest in peace, but they're not going to worry about lights, camera, and action. All right? You've got a dispensary. You've got the Memorial Cemetery. And here you have Sunliner Diner. Do you want this to land on 30A? No. It is not a small neighborhood restaurant. We're open to a neighborhood restaurant, part of a mixture of uses. They talk about the shopping center. The shopping center is only going to be there from maybe 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock. It's not going to be there that length of time. And it's not going to be there 7 days a week. And it's not going to impact the traffic. Getting back to the traffic for a minute, that is not a fast food restaurant. People are going to go in there and sit, enjoy their meal, and traffic will back up more than anything else because they want to go there. I'm asking you to deny this because it doesn't fit the Land Development Code or the comprehensive plan. Simple. Thank you. Excuse me? What is that picture?
There aren't.
Oh, there are none.
That was her point.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Hello. I know you all are tired and ready to go. My name is Melinda Lindsay, Lindsey, and my husband and I own a property in Ventana Dunes, which is neighboring to Blue Water Landing and Highland Park, and which would be neighboring also Sunliner Diner. So most of my notes are exactly what you've already heard. There's going to be this noise, there's going to be this light, there's going to be this big car sitting out there. This thing is shiny. They may have changed the color to aqua, but it doesn't really change the way the thing looks. It's still going to look the same. If you haven't ever been to Pigeon Forge or Gulf Shores to see one of these in person, You need to. I was there in March, and then I heard about all this happening, and I was like, holy cow, we can't have that on 30A. That's not what my husband and I have spent our entire working life working for our retirement home off of 30A, and we didn't work for that. We didn't work to be in that area, type of an area. So same thing you've already heard. Environmental things, worried about the coastal dunes and the coastal lake, the habitat and the wildlife there. How is it going to impact them? But I'd like to clarify, I would like to clarify a couple of things just to make this very short. Silver, aqua, and white are the colors, and the gentleman presented aqua and white. And that sounds coastal, but it is silver, aqua, and white. Music is 7:30 to 10 per the last meeting that I attended online. The traffic, they said it would not draw as much traffic as a mixed-use shopping center. That's not right, because we have mixed-use shopping center down by Mimos. And I can tell you that the traffic that piles up on 30A because they can't get in is from Mimos. It's not from the ice cream shop, the coffee shop, the hair salon. And whenever you have a hair salon or a coffee shop, you won't have 200 people in a hair salon at one time. And if we had a mixed-use shopping center, that's the kind of traffic that we'd be looking at. And these people in Blue Water Landing would have a lot easier life, for sure. Sirens. Since we've been here on this trip, I have heard sirens after sirens after sirens from our screened-in porch. And every day I'm like, I have never heard this many sirens. There's so much traffic and so many things going wrong with bicycles, golf carts, just people trying to be in a hurry. We pulled out of our neighborhood tonight onto 30A, and my husband said, you better get on it. And I said, I'm retired. I don't drive fast anywhere I go now. Why should I? I don't need to. And it was because people don't travel 25 miles an hour down in that area. They don't do it. They're speeding. And if you have to punch it and peel out, exiting your neighborhood, that's problematic. The next thing is our family cycles. We do have e-bikes. We have grandchildren and trailers behind e-bikes. We try to cross from Ventana Dunes to get to where we can get on the sidewalk and go west, and it is playing Frogger. You are one person can go, next person better wait. And the children are coming. We're not going until we have plenty of space. But that just helps clarify a few things. And one more thing to follow up with what Lee said, compatibility matters. What happens whenever people get a divorce? They're incompatible. It doesn't work out. So right now we have this Sunliner diner proposal coming in. It is not being well received by the people who live in the area, who own in the area, who vacation in the area. Maybe they don't care, they don't know. But the people who are residents of the county, it's incompatible with what they would like to see happen. So thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. I know it's been a long day and a long night, but hopefully you all will make the right decision.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to speak to this? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment, and it looks like Mr. Tatum's coming back to the microphone.
I am, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Stephen Tatum again for the record. Just a couple of things. First, I want to start out by saying I do appreciate their concerns. I don't want everybody to think that I'm standing up here just saying, no, you should just take it. That's not the way I feel. But I also am a big property rights advocate. And when you purchase a piece of property, and I've heard certain members of this board say this, you get the rights that are attached to that property when you buy it. Now, that's usually been in the connotation of someone requesting a zoning change, but it applies both ways, right? There's nothing in this proposal that does not comply with the standards for a small neighborhood development. People talk about the intent. Well, the intent does not matter. We don't know what the intent was. There's no document that tells us what the intent was. People are assuming they know things about what the intent was of that particular provision, or those provisions. But I will point out one thing. There's two different scenic corridors in Walton County. There's the 30A scenic corridor, and there's the 98-331. 98-331 has a very stringent set of specifications that you have to comply with for your building. For whatever reason, Walton County has never adopted that for 30A. Now, my personal opinion is that they wanted to leave it up to developers, property owners, to determine what kind of product do they want to put on their own property. For instance, compare Alice Beach to Grayton Beach. Two totally different type of areas, correct? I mean, no doubt that those are not the same type thing. Still on 30A Scenic Corridor, right? So, yes, I understand they believe that this is not compatible. But compatibility, as I've told you guys before, has a very specific set, or a very specific definition in Florida statutes. And we are compatible with the neighborhood because this is a use that is allowed within the zoning district. This is a use that was contemplated for all small neighborhood zoning districts. To quell one thing that I keep hearing about, and it's the music, the sound carrying. I think there's a disconnect between what volume the music's played at outside the building, because the music's there for the people who are waiting. If they're waiting outside to hear the music, it's not like Chubby Checkers out there blasting, you know, some, I forget what's that, bebop? But anyway, I can't remember what it's called now. But anyway, the 50s music, it's not like that.
I'd just like to clarify that's not bebop. As a jazz player, I'm aware that.
But what is it? Remind me, because what is 50s style music called?
It's not bebop.
It's not doo-wop. Doo-wop. Yes, thank you. Doo-wop. I did actually grow up listening to that with my parents. So, but anyway, I just couldn't remember the name. But that's not what's happening. It will be at a reasonable volume that, sure, the people who are at the pool that may one day exist might be able to hear it. But aside from that, it's not like it's going to be infiltrating their brain like something coming from one of the other restaurants they're talking about. I do want to remind you again of what the standard for a quasi-judicial hearing is. You know, that you're supposed to have competent substantial evidence before you in order to deny the project. So what that means is there has to be evidence presented to you that it's competent, meaning that it's from a reliable source, and substantial, meaning that it's substantive to what you're doing or what you're considering. You don't have that here. You have no competent substantial evidence presented by the neighborhood. And I'm just going to read to you. This is from a First District Court of Appeals case from 2010. The First District Court of Appeals is the District Court of Appeals that our area is under. And this is from a case called Catherine's Bay LLC versus Fagan. The court said, lay witnesses may offer their views in land use cases about matters not requiring expert testimony. For example, lay witnesses may testify about the natural beauty of an area because this is not an issue requiring expertise. Lay witnesses' speculation about potential traffic problems, light and noise pollution, and general unfavorable impacts of a proposed land use are not, however, considered competent substantial evidence. Similarly, lay witnesses' opinions that a proposed land use will devalue homes in the area are insufficient to support a finding that such devaluation will actually occur. There must be evidence other than the lay witnesses' opinions to support such claims. That's controlling law in the state. You have nothing before you that is competent substantial evidence that you should deny this project. That's all I've got to say, unless y'all got some other questions for me. I don't believe anybody on my team's got anything else.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I know it's your job to point out that it's not competent substantial evidence, but as I started, when this very thing first came up, I asked about the zoning and the future land use and the fact that it is own small neighborhood, and it's subject to special development standards in section G, which I also brought up that small neighborhood projects shall be pedestrian in scale and shall facilitate and encourage pedestrian use. The placement of residential and commercial land uses shall be such that pedestrian rather than vehicular access is facilitated and encouraged. And I don't believe that this does meet that. And that, to me, speaks directly to the Land Development Code. I have another question. In the packet, as I was reviewing things, I always have to look at stormwater. And I see that an exfiltration system is proposed for stormwater management, and I want to know who's going to maintain that.
Maintenance will be by the property owner.
And who's the property owner?
Right now is under Blue Water Landing Holdings LLC. I mean, I don't know if it's going to stay under that or if it'll get transferred into another LLC once a restaurant's there. But whoever owns the property will be the one who is also required to maintain the stormwater. It's not on the association.
Okay.
To your other point, I'd like to say that this is a small neighborhood project. The whole thing, you got to remember, this is not a development order in and of itself by itself on a single lot. It's the whole neighborhood.
Yes,
That's right. And it does promote pedestrian walkability access. You've got 31 houses over here, and if you recall, it was supposed to be, you probably don't recall, well, maybe you do. You were here then, just not on the board. But when this was approved, there was several more houses were first anticipated to be here, but it all got cut back because of the Dune Lake issues. But there is still pedestrian walkability within this area from neighborhood to restaurant. And then you've got the multi-use path directly right there along 30A. So I do have to push back against you saying it's not a pedestrian scale, because I just can't let that go. I understand your point, because obviously somebody half a mile away is probably not going to walk there, but that's unfortunately the nature of our society in general.
Oh, and I don't think the people in the 31 homes are going to walk there either, but I'm just saying.
The home, part of that subdivision design was sidewalks, I'm assuming, on each side of the road. They didn't buy out half of the sidewalks or anything? Both sides of the road? Okay.
Commissioners, anyone have questions for Mr. Tatum or the architect or anyone? Go ahead, Forrest.
If that neighborhood is gated, is it fully fenced? You know, are you allowing pedestrians to walk into the neighborhood and walk around, or is it a private?
I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah, it would probably be better for you.
Please come to the microphone.
Sorry, Mike Mather, M-A-T-H-E-R, spoke earlier. There's a gate, there's fencing that goes along both sides, but not fencing completely encompassing the neighborhood. And there are two pedestrian gates, both of them with no lock or anything like that. You just pull up and open it and you can come in.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephen, can you tell us whether there is a limit on the size of a restaurant in that zoning?
No.
There's no limit whatsoever? Okay, so it's sort of vague in terms of whether or not it fits and is compliant with it.
I mean, in some sense, there is, as I put in my letter to the applicant, there is, in my opinion, a little bit of vagueness there in terms of the character and the way it fits, but in terms of the size of it, there is no regulation or restriction there. It's a sit down restaurant. It's an allowable use.
Right.
Yeah.
But somehow when I read the various things, I picture it being more than, a neighborhood surrounding a small area with a couple of shops and a place to eat, not a bunch of houses down a long street with one restaurant at the entrance and sharing a parking lot where kids on electric bikes will be doing, wheelies at night listening to the music. That's what I'm picturing in this, which I don't think was intended. I'm not even sure that the D.R. Horton development fits what there is there, because it just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be a pedestrian community and other things. Right.
That is what that is what.
It's a fairly limited mix.
Definition of a small neighborhood. This does not mean.
Yeah. And I also,
Well, I'm going to have to push back against
I-
that because it is a mixture of uses. It is residential and commercial restaurant use. So I don't know how you can say what
I'm
you're saying.
also, for those people who live there or live in the other areas around Draper Lake, if we were really trying to protect Draper Lake, none of those houses down there would exist.
Agreed.
When D.R. Horton came in and clear cut, and I remember because I bike there all the time, and I biked when the whole thing was stripped. And I went past and I went, holy, what's happening here? And the fact that you guys all thought there was going to be a pool and now there's not. I mean, those, they failed you again. But I also just took a vacation for several weeks driving all over the country. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, of all the places we've eaten, we haven't eaten at a diner yet. And then this proposal pops onto my computer and I look and I go, oh, wow, I still won't have eaten at a diner. I mean, the pictures look like something out of Pixar's Cars,
Well, and that actually goes to my point that you're using your bias towards the project and want to deny it. You're not looking at what your job is, which is to look at does it meet the requirements of the Land Development Code, and your staff report says it does. It complies.
Well, if we just went by the staff report, we would just have an AI program that approved everything
But
that
that's
came
almost
by
what it needs to
because.
be. Because we have rules in place for a reason.
But we have a commission in place for a reason also, and we have to interpret those rules. And it appears that at least maybe two of us at least don't think this fits the code. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, make that 3.
And in addition, there's a safety issue that is, of all of the projects we have seen, this one has a potential to be the most unsafe of any that has come across since I have been here since October. So there's two things for me.
I would kind of disagree with Mr. Tatum. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
About the issue of competent substantial evidence. I've heard lots of evidence that was competent. I mean, these people live in that area. They can testify to what they have seen in terms of traffic, bicycles, pedestrians. And you've also had obviously substantial evidence because it's almost 8 o'clock and we're still here. And it's been very, very, I think the comments tonight have been excellent. They've been well thought out, well organized, and I commend the public for presenting the information they did. So
I can't agree that it was the best, well thought out public comment that I've had against me in any of my projects. I will agree with you on that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, I thought you were disagreeing for a
No,
second.
I will agree with you on that. Now, I won't agree on the competent substantial
Gotta be
evidence
careful.
unless,
You don't wanna
because then I'd have to be disagreeing
Now
with
we
the
can go out and
First
have a
District
beer
Court of
then.
Appeal.
I'll even buy you a beer. So, I think there's three issues here, and I think probably the most important one is just whether or not it meets the code with respect to the scale, small neighborhood. And I agree that it doesn't meet the requirements.
Is there any more
there-
questions for me? I don't mean to cut you off, but is there any more questions for me, or are we in y'all discussing
Oh, okay.
now?
I thought we were in deliberation.
Yeah, that's-
Oh.
Sorry.
Mr.
Pardon
Tatum
me.
wants to sit down if we're done with him.
Okay, all right. We're done.
I'm
with
getting
this.
tired. I've been standing 10
I
minutes.
think you can have a seat.
My cousin Vinny, we're done with this guy.
No. Yeah, you can. Do you have more to say, Fred?
So in terms of character and compatibility, I was in Smoky Mountains last week, and I was disgusted with Pigeon Forge, especially Gatlinburg. Totally commercialized. That place used to have so much charm and character. It's a commercial success, but it's a disaster. And I know That's not much of a residential area, but, and it's not comparable to 30A. But I mean, commercialization is not necessarily good for our neighborhoods. And so compatibility, I think, is a big issue, even though that's not a requirement necessarily in the small neighborhood zoning district. But the big issue to me is traffic. And I live on 30A. I know what it takes to get out into traffic, whether you're going right or left. And I don't have a bike path to cross to do that. So I understand what these folks are talking about. And I don't have a blind curve. You know, I live in a straight section. You got visibility in both directions. And it's still a nightmare to get out there. This time of year, in the wintertime, not so bad, but this time of year, it's awful. So I think the county has a fiduciary responsibility for public safety, and I think what we're looking at here doesn't meet the safety requirements. It's not something that you can't be assured, you can't even feel comfortable there's not going to be serious accidents at that point where this project meets 30A. And in fact, somebody said there's already been serious accidents there. So I think something with a smaller scale, and I think it would be nice if there was a mixture of uses in there, not uses, but types of properties, I think would be a lot more welcome than this one is. But I think even just from a point of view of safety, that I don't think it's something that we should approve, and we can't. That's my 3 cents worth.
Well, my point is understanding the physical limitations of the property, the location in the curve that it is. I think this particular project, it's already been on the record that it reduces traffic from what it's already entitled to, which is the 20,000 square foot shopping center. If it's reducing traffic, it's improving the situation over what could be there and what's already, set aside there with the 20,000 square foot shopping center from a traffic standpoint. I don't think we can have a bias to what goes there as far as the type of use. Our code doesn't allow that. We're required to review it based on the land development code and comprehensive plan. And we've even heard some of the opposition say, set those governing documents aside and use some other logic to deny this. And I don't think that's something we can do.
I agree.
Jim?
I'll make a motion to deny based on, doesn't meet the land development code, it's not small neighborhood, it's not compatible, and it's not safe.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of denying signify by aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. All right. Anything else for the commission? If not, we will stand adjourned.
Good, my computer's almost dead.